Greetings, fellow Amblemites. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to Season 3 of Spielberg Month. Since Steven Spielberg doesn't do audio commentary on his own work, we thought we'd do it for him. After all he's done for us, it's the least we can do for him. Of course, we've selected 5 films from the vast catalog of work to commentate on. So let's adventure into the nostalgic and alien alike. And while you're on the hook, let's bridge the gap between history and cinema on Spielberg Month.
Okay.
Yes, we're back, Dragon. Season 3.
Yes.
All right, folks. So I am really looking forward to the selection of films we have caught up. We might have dropped some not so subtle hints in the intro there. But tonight we're looking at Bridge of Spies. And Bridge of Spies, Dragon, this is honestly one of the most pleasant surprises I've had in the Spielberg canon so far with Spielberg Month from what we've talked about with the lineup of Spielberg Month through seasons 1 and 2. I was expecting to like this, but this is honestly, it's not in my top 5, but it's definitely in my top 10 Spielberg movies at this point. Like I'm really quite enamored with this one.
I remember, I believe during the last Spielberg month, I think I watched it for the first, I don't know, it was either this, I think, the movie came out, I believe in 2015, so I don't know if it was during the first, I don't know, it was a while ago. The point is, I remember going on about Bridge of Spies while we were kind of in a Spielberg headspace and recommending it, and, we kind of finally did it this year, because again, this thing blew me away, it really did.
And of course, Dragon, the big reason why this is kind of the start of Spielberg Month Season 3 is the Mark Rylance of it all, Dragon. This is the movie that kicked off what I lovingly refer to as the Mark Rylance-sance.
Yep, from BFG to Dunkirk.
Yeah, this, and Mark Rylance is like so unassuming in this movie, and we'll talk about it, of course, as we go on, but
he's brilliant in this movie.
Let's see, Dragon. I'm a little rusty at this. I forget how it goes. Do we kind of talk about our overall impressions on the movie, which I feel like we've already done?
Exactly, so I can just go into the backstory at this point.
Go ahead.
All right, here's the backstory, folks. Just kind of the cursory stuff before we get into the real kind of nitty-gritty of the commentary itself here. So here's what you need to know about Bridge of Spies. So Bridge of Spies, of course, is based on it's based on a real event that took place during around the 1960s during the Cold War. There was this famous prisoner exchange in Berlin, around the Berlin Wall, specifically on the Gleinik Bridge, and basically, hence the Bridge of Spies. And it was basically there was this Russian spy, Rudolf Abel, and he was being exchanged for a pilot who was shot down, a U-2 pilot named Francis Gray Powers, and in addition to Francis Gary Powers, they also got a young college student. I think it was a young student, Frederick Pryor. So basically,
no, we need Powers and Pryor.
Yes. So that's where the story gets interesting, folks. So again, it's not just like your average negotiation here. Of course, this is during kind of the paranoia-filled Cold War times. And
Dragon, what I love about this movie is at the same time, it's also just a survival story because of Tom Hanks has the most realistic sinus infection in the history of film.
He does, and I do actually think there's like a little thematic tie, and we'll get there when we get to the sinus thing.
Sure.
We'll get there. The point is, so Tom Hanks, he portrays a New York lawyer, a lawyer from Brooklyn, who in real life was James Donovan. Plays James Donovan, who was just an average Joe kind of insurance lawyer.
No, he's not my guy.
Yes. And he facilitated the exchange and did such a good job. Famously, Kennedy asked him to do the same for the Cuba after the Bay of Pigs. And that's kind of the big sell on. You get to see kind of what kind of got him that acclaim. And essentially, that story, the big punchline to that story, that oh my god, this average Joe lawyer here, he did such a good job. The president asked him to negotiate. He's not even a trained negotiator. Well, again, he's a lawyer, so I mean, he has experience in negotiating, but he's never like official for the government or anything.
Right,
So
right.
there was a writer by the name of Matt Charman, I think. I think it's Matt Charman. It's not Chairman because that would be ridiculous. It's Matt Charman, I think. And this guy, he learned about he heard the Cuban Missile, kind of the Cuba story, the Cuba ending to the story, and he kind of looked back and he discovered the story, like, oh my god, this whole Bridge of Spies thing. Yeah, we gotta do a movie on this. There's a real story here, and he writes a script. And he then collaborates. I believe I don't know if he collaborated before or after the fact, but he collaborated with the Coen brothers.
The Coen brothers, yes, yes.
So he collaborates with the Coen brothers at some point during the process, and basically they bring the script, one of the drafts of the script, to DreamWorks, and of course, in bringing it to DreamWorks, it lands on Steven Spielberg's desk. And here's how Spielberg gets involved in all this. I summarize why Spielberg at his core took on this project, because we see that they mentioned this in the making of, and I presume this is the main reason Spielberg took on this project. So while there are no direct daddy issues in this film, there is a positive example of Spielberg's relationship with his father in the making of this movie. Is that Spielberg's father was sent to Russia for an engineer exchange program back in the day. So during the Cold War, he was sent. I believe he was sent to Russia. I believe so. It was either Russia or West Germany, one of the two. He was sent overseas while the U-2 business went down. And Spielberg, again, you got to imagine, like he went over there. Then this happens, and oh my God, any American around the Soviets, they're going to be definitely getting hateful gaze among them. And literally, Spielberg's father told him, Arnold Spielberg, he told Steven about this encounter, where this really memorable, haunting encounter where like a Russian accosted him and said, "Look what you're doing. Look what your country's doing to us. Look what your country's doing to us." Again, it didn't escalate, but it got really tense, and he just kind of was in his face about it for a minute there. And that encounter always kind of stuck with Steven then.
And the interesting thing about that, Dragon, is I feel like the whole movie is kind of framed around that whole kind of sense of paranoia. And honestly, in a way, Dragon, that is kind of the big daddy issue in this movie, is the fact that Hanks is leaving his family. He's a family man at heart, but he's traveling to this dangerous foreign territory that's not just dangerous in the sense that with the Russian angle of it all and the war tensions, but also it's physically dangerous on him. It's like we see throughout the movie, he's just like, I just want to go and I want to get home and I want to go to bed because I have a cold and this needs to wrap up quickly.
I got to tell you, it didn't occur to me until you brought this up, Tiki, but I mean, it's a quite a little beautiful little parable we have there where Spielberg might relate the experience. Basically, what he brought to the film is that this father went over there, basically how his own father was over there during a dangerous situation. So maybe there's a parable in kind of applying his own family story to Donovan's story.
Dragon, I mean, I'm sorry. It's a fallacy to say that a Spielberg movie doesn't have daddy issues, my friend.
Yeah, I'm sure that. Well, then again, BFG does BFG really have any daddy issues?
Dragon, BFG is all about kind of like a surrogate father, and she's an orphan, and
yeah, I get. Okay, you have a point. There was the point. Okay, you're right. There's always like a little hidden.
There's always daddy issues. Dragon.
Okay, so basically,
all the best cowboys have daddy issues.
All right, so we have the daddy issues of it all mixed with the fact that Spielberg, he's always wanted to tell kind of a proper Cold War story, not just like what we had in India, not just what we had in Crystal Skull. I want to tell like an honest to goodness kind of Cold War paranoia. So he wanted to examine the propaganda and the paranoia of the Cold War, which this movie does all over the place. It's very impressive.
This was a damn good follow-up to Crystal Skull. Wait, I think Tintin was after Crystal Skull, right? Can you help me on this?
Okay, let's see. Crystal Skull was, I think, it was 2008 or 7.
Crystal Skull was...
Tintin was 9 or 10. This was 2015, so...
Oh, yeah, this is way after. Yeah, never mind. This is like way after some of the other ones. Okay, I'm sorry.
Anyway, so the point is this is a 4-month shoot, roughly. They shot in 35 millimeter on Kodak, so a real old school kind of vibe going on there. And this, of course, is the performance that won Rylance the Best Supporting Actor Oscar.
Dragon, can you remind me who else was up that year?
I know there was a... God, I'm trying to think. No, it wasn't. God, I know
I
this.
know there was someone that you and I were really rooting for,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah,
right? Like, isn't it? Okay,
yeah.
you know what?
For the life of me, I swear, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know how you were all rooting for this one guy. Just for the life of me, I can't
You
remember.
know what? Just hold that thought. Keep going through the backstory. I'm going to do a quick Google.
All right, so I guess another thing to really bring up here. So again, one of the things that kind of kicks this movie off is that James Donovan he wrote a book that about his experience, about his story, and I guess that was kind of the backbone for a lot of the material within the movie. So it's kind of goes to Matt Charman, then essentially the Coen brothers, as you'll find, the Coen brothers, their main impact on the story was they basically did a touch up on the script. So Charman wrote the first draft, the primary draft, and then the Coens punched it up in places, but specifically the big bridge, the third act climax. That's really where the Coens really. That's where they tied all the ribbons together, if you will. That's where they really the third act. That's where the Coens really got their hands into, and they really did some good stuff there. But yeah, so Bridge of Spies is kind of this wonderful surprise in the Spielberg catalog that I was very impressed by going into. I was afraid I was going to drag because I think some critics, when this movie came out, I heard like some like not maybe not the film critics, but like your average critics saying, "Yeah, it's not one of Spielberg's best." Kind of drags. Well, and I find that very. I had a completely different experience. I was so riveted by it, and of course, Spielberg working with Tom Hanks, and that's never failed because my God, Tom Hanks again. It's so funny. We have like one of the most American kind of the most Americana actors you can find in Tom Hanks. Like, if you ever had to have one actor to represent the nation, it's Tom Hanks for me. I really,
Tom
it sounds
Hanks
like
is the new Jimmy Stewart.
Tiki again. I absolutely agree with you on that point. Again, the man's preparing to play Mister Rogers for goodness sake. I mean, come on, how much he's played Walt Disney and he's getting ready to play Mister Rogers. Who next? Well, he plays everyone's favorite cowboy for pity's sake as well. I mean, Woody, Walt Disney, and again, Mr. Rogers. So you can never miss with Tom Hanks. I mean, come on. I think the only time he's ever once even flirted around with playing a bad guy. I haven't seen the movie because I heard bad things, but The
The
Circle, I
la-
think.
well, also the Lady Killers.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess he's very rarely. It's like Jackie Chan's. Like he's rarely ever played a bad guy, if ever. I mean, in this case, I'll take your word for Lady. I haven't seen Lady Killers. So. Is it
The
good?
Coen Brothers movie.
Oh,
It's okay. It's not one of the better Coen Brothers movies. I'll say that.
any luck?
Oh, yes. Sylvester Stallone was the one we were rooting for.
Right.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay. That's the one.
But you know what? When all is said and done, I think Rylance definitely, after we've seen what Rylance has done since then, I definitely think he deserved it.
I wasn't upset with him winning, but I think we all wanted Sly to win. That's the thing. We all wanted Stallone to win, but you know what? I mean, Rylance, he earned it, man. He did.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so
Okay.
welcome to the lethal weapon of it all, Tiki.
Yeah, sure, folks. So we're going to do our damnedest to record this commentary as a podcast that you can listen to without watching the movie. But if you want to get a copy of the movie and watch along with us, go ahead and do that. Get to timestamp 000. And I'm going to count up to 3 and then say go. When I say go, go ahead and press play. All right, Dragon, you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, folks, first installment of Spielberg Month Season 3, Bridge of Spies in 1, 2, 3, go! This is a Touchstone movie. That's interesting.
Yes, and
I didn't even know they were still around.
it's so funny. Spielberg, with this and with BFG, you kind of had these somewhat vaguely kind of tied movies between DreamWorks and Disney, technically, with the whole Touchstone of it all.
No, I mean Touchstone is Disney, Dragon. Don't get me wrong. Touchstone was Disney far before Marvel or Star Wars was Disney.
I know. I'm just saying it's kind of neat that we've had the kind of those kind of Spielberg doing a film that kind of bridges both sides of the whole like DreamWorks
Bridges
Disney.
the Spies.
One could say.
What if we did like a Disney DreamWorks version of Bridge of Spies?
Well, yes, we could use Woody in that equation. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, maybe.
You two just need to get along and stop fighting.
All right.
All right.
So we have a great kind of smart and quiet introduction to Rudolph Abel coming up here, and I really love it. I love how I love we play Abel the absolute way we should play Abel. That he's a smart spy with kind of this artistic hobby that's all about the little details, and that's what his line of work is all about. I'm jumping ahead here just to make sure I don't miss it. By the way, just, in case anyone's like raising an eyebrow, they're like, "Wait a minute, he's getting that far awfully quick." Right now. So again, folks, the timeline here, they kind of play around with the timeline a little because again, the event took place essentially in 1960, but I think technically it wrapped up in 1962. So they play a little fast and loose with the year specifics. So you know, this did get all started in '57 though, so it's on the money there. Anyway.
So I assume what you meant with the connection between Hanks and Rylance with first of all, he's painting a portrait of himself. That's gonna be it's gonna tie back around.
Oh, yeah, I love again, my favorite element of this movie, easily, and big surprise, my favorite element of the movie is Hanks and Rylance together and their chemistry, their bond, their relationship. I think it's fantastic. It's the reason I watched the movie. Honestly, it's my one of two reasons I really one of the big two things I walk away from the movie with. Like they're dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like I love that it's like he's a spy in not like the most glamorous sense. I like how true to life and how true to the Cold War that is. Because really, the guy's making dead drops essentially. He's making dead drops and he's passing along messages. That's all he's really doing. And he's this very unassuming man. And because he's so unassuming, especially in the sequence we're going to see coming up, it's why he's made for the job. It's why he's it's why you would want like an older man to be a spy, because who's going to look twice at an older man just kind of like going about his hobbies?
But would it help?
Exactly, one of the best runners.
Oh, I was going to say the connection between Hanks and Rylance is the sinus infection. Like Hanks kind of inherits the sinus infection from Rylance.
Exactly. Well, what I read it more as he didn't really quite catch it from, but for two things. Actually.
Well, no, I'm not saying he caught it from him. I'm saying thematically he caught it from him.
Yeah, and basically it's yet another little detail that kind of bonds them together while they're apart in the story. And also later on, you'll see that it's kind of a clue that Rylance was most likely in Berlin earlier in the film. It's like a part of the movie we didn't see, just showing that okay, absolutely, because we don't know a lot about the guy, and that's true in real life. That this guy, he was a good spy in the sense of we still don't know exactly what he did. He's that good a spy. That's the thing. Like, we don't know all the details of what exactly he passed along. That's a guy who's good at his craft there. Mm-hmm. By the way, Bill Fisk from Daredevil, Dominic Lombardozzi as Agent Blasco here. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
I actually did notice it, Dragon, believe it or not.
Remember, we cast him as Michael Eisner in our.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I noticed him. Yeah, through the name. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting Spielberg character actors that show off. And you know what I love about it, Dragon, is I love all the, this is going to sound really simple and stupid, but I love all the bowler hats in the movie, Dragon. It's such a signature Spielberg element.
Yeah, and again, like Spielberg knows how to do a period piece, man, where again, like Janusz Kaminski, his cinematographer, and of course the set designers and the whole lot, they tie it all together, man, because again, the stock of footage, it's kind of in this place where it feels its age, but it still feels like clear and crisp as it can be. It's like modern.
Well, I feel like it's like the cinematography is very new school, and then the set design and the aesthetics are very old school, and it blends together in a very Spielbergian kind of engaging way.
Absolutely, and I love this bit here. I love that again. Like honestly, there's this recurring idea I really love here, where the Americans are running everywhere, but your spies and and the Russians, they walk. And again, he's like the smart man hides in plain sight, and that's what he's doing here. Excuse me, he gets away with it here. That's the thing. Like the smarter, more confident man can walk, or again, the people scrambling. It's like they're overcompensating by running everywhere. And again, that's not taking away from the grit of Americans, but by the same token, it's like showing the difference in approach. And I think that's it's impressive. It's those precise and clever touches in the Spielberg work. It's just, it's true life espionage, and like moments like this where again, he's doing his hobby, which he genuinely likes. He and his wife are kind of artists, her with music, him with the paints, and again, he's literally making like a dead drop and like picking up a coded message. Mm-hmm. All these little precise details.
I'm sure you loved like the obscure gadgetry at play here.
Oh yes, now T, I do know a little bit of the old school spy gadgets. And I watch, I've watched a lot of stuff about spies. You know, not a huge James Bond guy, but again, I've definitely paid attention to the gadgets and the stuff I've read and Get Smart and all like the parodies of the gadgets from the Cold War era spying. And I always had a fondness for the silver dollar and coin tech. Basically, what that is, folks, you hide things in in coins. The old gag, the old adage when you saw parodies of spy things that like with Get Smart, we had the shoe phone. You put in everything into everyday objects and like items, like unassuming items, which is just it was clever at the time, but as time went on, as it got more and more ridiculous, you have to bring all this gear where you could just have the direct device just smaller as the years went on. And with the coin devices, and these are still really cool that you could conceal like cyanide stuff in the coins, or in this case, like just a folded message.
Uh-huh.
A lot of fun little things there.
So do you think at this point Rylance knows he's screwed?
Well, I know he's smart enough to know exactly what to do when he's caught. He's always had the contingency at the ready, and I mean, well, remember he does it absolutely know because those guys are looking for him, and they bump into him there, so he knows they're looking for him, and he's just doing the job, and I think he knows. I think he has a
Uh-huh.
good idea. He has a really good idea, and he's just getting the message down. He knows exactly what to do when they come knocking at his door, and he actually has a really good plan in place when they do come to his door because as you'll see, he pulls the card of essentially he pulls the old the confused old man card, which again is another reason why he's an excellent choice for a spy. Where again the unassuming and then the guy you'd kind of you'd underestimate. Where okay, he's an old man, he's left it. I wonder later on if he left his teeth in the bathroom on purpose to kind of distract them, and so he could kind of gather his bearings and kind of again play the confused old man card. I mean, I love all this here. Again, it's like the folded message, and again,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the reason again, this is the stuff we still know like all the details of today. They might have said something like recent years, but I know like when this movie came out, they might have said some stuff before this. From what I could find, all we know is he passed along information. We don't know like if it was very valuable information or if it was just like very minor stuff. It could have just been like a report of like what's going on in the world, it's like a newspaper, but for like ahead of time, you don't know.
Uh-huh.
This is what I'm talking about here. Again, like they're running. Where again, when we find him, he's not in a rush. He's not panicking. He's all calm, cool, collected, not in a hurry. And again, that's I think this is a great kind of divide in the organization. So it's fascinating.
And it's taken up until this point for Rylance to even speak. And so that's like what, like about 5 minutes into the movie where we don't have any dialogue. Really impressive right
The
there.
first line we have, he's being really polite, where he says, "Excuse me." That's his first line of the movie when he
Mhm.
bumps into Lombardozzi.
Oh, right, right, right. Yeah.
I mean, either way, it's like just very like quiet and just like unassuming. And I think there's a really important thing we shouldn't take away from the movie in that it's like pleasant. Teague and I we do joke about pleasantries. Pleasantries really do go a long way, and it's like the formation of Rylance and Hanks's friendship is that he the only guy who treats him with respect and is like showing everyone else like they're casting dispersions. It's kind of during those like kind of post McCarthy days era in the world where it's if someone just thinks that you're a red, thinks that you're a commie, thinks that you're working for a different side, like you lose all credibility instantly. Where again, in this case, the guy is an honest dude and a spy, and they're not giving him into not treating him like human. Again, if you're not American, you're like you're not human essentially.
Hmm.
And this is so clever here, where he's covering up the message. He's probably memorized it, or
Oh,
he's
yeah.
got the
Oh,
gist of the
yeah.
message. Again, this I always thought on the rewatch, I thought this was so freaking brilliant. Where we have we introduce again, we parallel the characters and the editing. Michael Kahn did such a great
Oh, the
job
editing in
editing
this is freaking fantastic.
exactly, and I love we have this great transitioning line here. We have the whole "my guy" speech. Again, like him saying that over, being segue of him saying that as like as we met the guy in question. That's good. I like that.
Hmm.
And Tiki on the rewatch, this whole speech they has here has super significance for what we have in the third act, or the whole well, getting to it's a question where you decide where the third act starts. But the point is, the whole car scene we're going to have later on about like he's speaking of like a car accident hitting multiple people here, and we have the tension built in from this scene, like a little seed here of like, like someone hitting of this car hitting five motorcyclists. Little those like those little details, the little fun little thematic callbacks. Of course, we're seeing how brilliant a lawyer James Donovan is here. He's very smart, and we see how we foreshadowed their dynamic, and he's a very competent insurance lawyer, and that's really important. That again, he knows his stuff. He's a guy who follows the rules. He's by the book, and he knows his stuff because he would have to know his stuff to be an effective insurance agent. So it's these two smart characters are going to find each other, James and Abel. Again, they're smart, they're crafts, but very opposite crafts.
Yeah, and of course with Hanks here, he's in a very familiar situation, something that we've seen Hanks in before, just kind of in the negotiating, like he's like the cool guy in the room, he's like the nice guy. He's kind of like, speaking to the human qualities, and it's just his role in a nutshell right there, and I feel like it really is one of those things where you can't, like, Hanks is one of those actors where he essentially feels like, to a certain extent, he plays the same kind of like Jimmy Stewart good guy role in every movie. But man, it's like every movie he adds different layers to it and different dimensions to it.
Like the law firm here, and I do like that we kind of get like the kind of the Berlin reverse of this when we go over there, and we get to see like another law office and see how that one operates, and it's kind of a little more cold, spacious, but a little more cordial than he's going to be treated after he becomes the bad guy. But we see here, it's very bustling, and yeah, it's a really nice law firm. I love the old timey big law firm here, like the law firm that Kim Wexler would kill for.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we have the great Alan Alda in the room.
Ah, yes, of course, very famous for MASH. Had a really good role in The Blacklist, by the way, for like a season. He was really good on that. Also,
So I
Tower
like how the
Base.
movie just kind of cuts to the chase. You know what I mean? It doesn't bullshit around with the plot. It's like, all right, this is it. This is what's going on. You're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, real quick with Alan Alda too. I just want to say, with his character, I like that he's not a bad guy, but he's about the respectability. He brings a sense of respectability. That's why you get Alan Alda in the first place. But he has that self preservation that separates him from James. I thought was important.
I mean, I think it's fair to say this is definitely a movie that doesn't really have a bad guy in it.
True. Yes, and that's the point. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So I love these little touches really grab me on the rewatch. Like the door is closed before they say anything, communicating, okay, this is big business going on here. So because again, it's a very sensitive matter, and this is a very kind of hush hush kind of thing where they need to railroad a spy, but they need to say they got him a solid lawyer, so they give him a guy his criminal defense days are way in the past, but again, he is technically certified for criminal law while he's mainly an insurance lawyer. So it's kind of the perfect loophole to introduce our guy into the story with. And this is
Here
during
we
kind
go
of
with
that.
Alda's patriotic duty speech.
Yes, and again, this is the era of kind of the uber patriotism and the Red Scare. Again, we're all very. It's a race of like who's going to get to the future first in many respects.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Doug was a character who really I had a lot more significance than I initially gave him credit for. Because Doug is going to be important for kind of ushering. We see, Hanks has a soft spot for Doug here. He's like, yeah, he's kind of the young intern, he's kind of the young protege, and kind of works at the firm, nice guy, nice kid.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, again, Donovan's whole storyline is that he's going to be trying to save young nice guys like Doug, but in Berlin, with the bridge of it all. It's kind of nice that he has like we have these reminders of young men. Kind of he's kind of in a way he's kind of saving the future of America. I know that sounds like a platitude, but I mean, go with me on it. It's that he is kind of trying to save like kind of the idealistic kind of eyes of the future. Like guys, just they're doing what they're told and they're just kind of living in this world.
Well, I mean, that's why he goes after the college kid even harder than the military guy.
Exactly, and again, he has that tie with Doug. He's the same age as Doug, and that's important. So again, Doug had a lot more significance than just being kind of like a little yes man guy.
Mhm.
By the way, of course, we have some Stranger Things going on in this scene with Noah Schnapp.
God.
I gotta tell you, it's the irony of again, like the how much more American can we make a Tom Hanks character? Well, his son voiced Charlie Brown. Okay, then.
There we go. There we go.
Also, we have Amy Ryan as I believe Mary. Of course, Amy Ryan, she was in the Goosebumps movie as Dylan Minnette's mother in that, and she's very well known for The Office. She was Holly from The Office, Michael Scott's girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
I thought she was good in this too. I like how she again, like not a bad guy, and she we even play her like the conventional cliche wife. And again, it's a touch of Spielberg to a T here, where it's a very realistic dinner scene. Where again, it almost feels something like Brad Bird would do something like this. We have the family dinner scene where people are actually having family dinner conversation, where like the littlest one wants to eat, the boy's just abiding by the family's wishes there, and the daughter's been like stood up, and it's like everyone has their own issues going on. It feels like a real family.
And of course, speaking of young men,
Exactly.
um, I don't know, this is the one of the elements of the movie where it's like I understand the thematic point. I think that Doug probably would have just been the would have made more sense to just have the only one that's connected to Hanks.
Right. Well, I mean, I like that Doug's just kind of there to kind of like, well, he kind of outs him for like, yeah, I gotta, gotta defend the spy. He's trying to usher him into a little
Right, right.
So again, I love how by the book and fair and honest he is with Abel. So this is like the formation of the solid bond that these guys are going to have. And again, I love that in this scene, again, Abel is playing it. Rylance is playing Abel so well here, where he's not necessarily lying, but he's not giving away any secrets. So he walks that line perfectly, like a good spy would. So, and it's really solid stuff.
So let's talk about Rylance's performance. I mean, I feel like that's kind of the big showpiece of the movie and just how they use him. To me, he's almost kind of like a reverse Hannibal Lecter in a way.
In a way, I kind of see he's a guy who's perceived like Hannibal Lecter by the American people, but in reality, he's actually as nice as he acts.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's like, and I feel like we don't know his story necessarily, but I feel like him becoming a spy in the first place was maybe an act of desperation or just like if not a desperate way to make money, maybe a way to plead to his government, to be in good with his government out of fear. You know what I mean? There's any number of possibilities here with this guy.
Right. And I love that the trust is basically he forges trust with James's character because he's not working for the government. Because again, his interest lies just within a lawyer doing his job, opposed to like just kind of being a cog in a machine where he's just dealing with a guy in a suit. He's dealing with like a human in a suit, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I love this, and I have to mention this somewhere. Is that so? I've always said this because of two roles. Tom Hanks played two roles for Steven Spielberg that always made me think of this. So Hanks in this movie, especially ethically in this movie, again, the kind of the character he's playing in, like almost to a T. He's kind of Jim Gordon as a lawyer in this movie. He really is.
Oh, here we go down the Jim Gordon road.
I'm just gonna pull it once.
All right, Jim Gordon Alley coming up, folks. Woot woot.
Okay, seriously. So Bridget, I've always said like if I ever had a short list for actors to play Jim Gordon, the big Hollywood stunt cast would be Tom Hanks because Bridge of Spies and Catch Me If You Can. Those are the two roles that I think the closest he's ever come to actually playing Jim Gordon is kind of like the honor battle. He's year one in Catch Me If You Can. It's just kind of classic Jim Gordon, kind of the morally kind of upright guy, Mm-hmm. The rule abiding kind of guy like that. Anyway, a little thing I wanted to say there. That's all. I mean, plus his name it's James. I don't know. It's like it really dawns on you a little bit in the movie. I don't know. At least for me, it did.
I mean, I guess you're right if I have to look at it where it's like if Gordon, put down the badge and started practicing law. Maybe that's going to be season 6 of Gotham. Who knows?
But I mean, seriously, again, he just has like ethically, he's like to a T, like Jim Gordon, but a lawyer though. It's just it's.
Meanwhile, Mike Ehrmantraut's in the background just being like, lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. Someone shut that old man up.
Okay, so speaking to the point that you've been saying throughout this, I believe we get in this scene for the first time. The whole "Would it help" line is one of the best lines in the film. It sums up, it sums up the pact these guys have, where he's got this great poker face, and James tells it as it is. It sense that it sets up the bond, the dynamic that these two guys have. One's just like, if I have to look worried, I can be. Would that help? And then the other guy's just saying, I really wish you would start to look worried here. It's just kind of getting a little. I just think like Ron's earned the Oscar with bits like that. Him just like pointing out that the in this scene too, he points out like the U.S. has the United States has spies too. I'm not alone here.
Mm-hmm.
Without like casting dispersion, he says in a very non-combative way that I like paint and stuff. And again, he does get his paint as we see. It leads to like a huge payoff of the movie that he's able to paint still. Good.
So yeah, and you're talking about the dichotomy where that's going to be Hanks's initial struggle. That's going to be his moral dilemma throughout the movie is what Rylance just kind of laid out for you.
Exactly, and of course, with that transition, him talking about the Americans have spies too, and of course, this is going to be the big sticking point, the big cause of the big negotiation, because like, hey, you had spies too. We're upset about that, and of course, we transition from the main spy to kind of our U.S. spy in Francis Gary Powers here. Kind of solid transition. Also, a familiar face from just to justify some of our references here from the Albuquerque verse. We have Jesse Plemons.
Dragon, you really need to see Game Night when you get a chance because Jesse Plemons is just out of control in Game Night. Actually, I'll look up and see if you can just see. Would you be interested in just maybe if YouTube has a compilation of Jesse Plemons moments in Game Night?
I don't know. I might look into it.
Okay.
But also, I heard that one of these other guys might be from Game Night as well. I was wondering if maybe you could shed any light on that. But yeah, I think one of our either Pryor or the guy who plays Francis Gary Powers might have also been from Game Night. Any familiarity at all there?
Give me a sec.
I might be crazy. I might be just thinking of Plemons, but I don't know. It's like saw his credits somewhere like lists. One of them was like listed as well for Game Night. Anyway. So speaking of familiar faces, so another one right here, Michael Gaston plays Williams here, basically the big boss of our military guys here, and he is very memorable from The Leftovers. He was Justin Theroux's kind of hunting buddy.
Yep, he was Dean, the big bald bastard, as I like to call him.
He's basically the role he serves here. He's Mr. Exposition for the CIA. That's his main role. And honestly, the CIA stuff, not specifically our agents like Hoffman. I mean, the CIA stuff in connection to like all this stuff right here. We're educating the mission and everything. That's like the only nitpick I have in the movie. We're gonna get to it. I have like one very small nitpick with this movie, and we'll get to it when it's kind of a big kind of act changing moment with the CIA stuff. Right. Well, not act changing, so it's like the big kind of high point of Act 2, I guess. We'll get.
Seriously, this movie is a stacked cast.
Oh yeah, it's a winner. Of course, Francis Gary Powers here. He's his son actually worked on this movie. He was a technical consultant for all the CIA the military stuff here.
Nice.
He yeah, he was a consultant, and he got a little cameo in the movie. He's one of the when they walk to the plane. I think you see him. We'll get there. He's the guy in the suit with the white hair. I think we'll see him a little later on. It was nice. Okay, here we go. So I think we're about to cut to this really again the small Spielberg really he did so well with all these small details, like the judge robing up. You know, he zips up the robe. You rarely ever see that with the judge. And it's usually it's like it's like the little stuff. And with that too, and this is something that again Tiki and I would absolutely appreciate because we love like the minutia of legalese with shows like Better Call Saul. So we really appreciate this stuff and the fact that in real life, judges and lawyers who are basically in each other's lives like constantly, they're going to form a rapport and a relationship, and they're going to oh yes, this lawyer, I remember him. And sometimes if you're smart and you're lucky, you'll form a bond with the judge. Like he'll be more inclined to give you a warrant. You never know.
Right.
And basically, with the idea here is that our insurance lawyer James, he has a long friendship with the judge here. Again, the judge is being real with him, and there is a double-edged sword to this, where again you have familiarity with the judge, but by the same token, that means when you pull like honest to goodness legalese, like from the book, which again our guy is very law-abiding, very by the book. That means he might be dismissive towards his friend, like, oh, you don't need to do that, come on. And that familiarity comes at a cost. Less objectivity when the moment comes down to it. Then again, it does pay off later on. So, double-edged.
Yeah. I also want to point out, Dragon, I don't know how many times you've seen this movie, but I only had a chance to see it the one time, so you're definitely ahead of me when it comes to recaps and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like this is a bit of a foreshadow to Hanks in Moscow and Hanks kind of experiencing like the hardships of a tough country. You know what I mean? He's in the rain, he's trying to hail a cab. And of course, here, Dragon, we get introduced to the great Scott Shepherd as Hoffman. One of my favorite characters in the movie. You know what? You know why I like Hoffman so much, Dragon?
Why do you like Hoffman so much, dude?
Because he's basically Keyes.
Yeah, he is kind of like Keyes. Yeah.
Right?
I won't go all the way with that. I kind of see it, though. I kind of see it.
He's kind of like just the classic, like, Spielbergian mysterious man in a suit.
That's the thing. Like he's friendly yet intimidating. That's the thing. That's the interesting thing with Hoffman. Where again, he's honestly, he's one of the closest things we have to a villain. He's not a villain, but he's adversarial. And again, he's not a bad guy because he is helping. I mean, he's helping, but he has an attitude about him. And again, he's just representing kind of the America then versus just kind of the forward thinking kind of James Donovan of it all.
Right.
Basically, James Donovan's a guy who basically what I love what he's doing here. He's kind of a guy who's representing the American ideal. Like this is a movie. At the end of the day, folks, I'm going to say about this movie. This is a movie that Steve Rogers would love, and that it represents the American ideal.
Oh my God, it totally is, Dragon.
That's the thing. It's not about like just doing
some Hollywood stunt casting for you. Tom Hanks is Captain America.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: if the next Infinity War movie, if they age him up like in the comics, then thanks.
That's what I'm saying. If we need a recast,
all right.
God.
But seriously though, again, and of course we're fans.
Okay, I love this delivery and timing on Hanks. He's just like creeping under the car, like what?
Yeah, that was great.
That's the thing, Dragon. This movie does have really, really clever, sharp, well-timed bits of comedy throughout to really get you through it. You know what I mean? It's not all just like conversations and think pieces and morals.
Again, I'll bring it up one last time here because this scene is kind of reminiscent of it. Is that this definitely has sort of again? I love that he's Tom Hanks kind of plays a tough guy, but not in the conventional sense here. He's a tough guy morally, and he can stand up for himself, and like he won't back down from any fight. As Abel says later on, he's kind of the standing man. That's kind of his Russian nickname. He's the standing man. And with the guy's going to get knocked down, he'll just keep getting back up until the guys respect him. And with that here, this feels kind of like I think the comparison between him and Hoffman is it's kind of like a Gordon Flass thing from year one. Where, again, you have kind of the tradition. I love
Hanks going off about the come on counselor thing. A judge already said it to me twice, and the more I hear it, the more I don't like it. And I love how he's still maintaining a level of coolness throughout the scene.
Yeah. I love the locations all over this. I love these conversations. Again, like so in the very beginning where he's giving the whole my guy speech, it's like we just have two guys sitting down. It's a really good kind of classy introduction. It's just two guys sitting on two opposite couches. And we go opposite tables, opposite couches. And again, kind of like with Better Call Saul, another lawyer-based show. it's again, it's like conversations can be the most riveting thing you've ever seen. And again, like just the little conversations between men in suits can be some of the most gripping stuff ever. Which is, it still astounds me why how we go from this and then we get to Lincoln if he does it so well here and then Lincoln.
Okay, look, you and me have to tackle Lincoln sometime because I
I'm jumping ahead
remember,
of Lincoln.
like, I'm not a huge fan of Lincoln, but I think I like Lincoln a lot more than you do, Mister.
We do. Look. I'm not giving Lincoln its due there. I mean, I got to rewatch it to give it a fair shake. I'll
Yeah,
be
yeah,
honest.
you seriously do.
I look. I do. I'm just. We'll see how that goes. My point is, like, I still
I
think
mean,
this
I'm
is
not saying Lincoln is like a top 10 Spielberg movie like this potentially is, but it's good. It's got some good stuff going on. It's
okay.
got
So,
Tommy Lee Jones and Sally Fields and
all right. So
Daniel Lewis. Anyways, go ahead.
back to this. So again, I love the whole Irish German heritage speech that he gives here, where it's basically this speech about the Constitution, and it's so clever. You know, the fact that there is a rule book. The rule book does count. Again, this is again like what I was saying earlier with the Flash thing. This is like a very kind of like why you abide by the rules, a very kind of law. Again, like why a Jim Gordon type would follow the law. Sort of. That's what I was getting at with that comparison. Is that he's basically saying without principles there is no America without following these principles that kind of say, hey, you have freedom, you have these rights. You know, there is no America. We all come from different places. We're united through this Constitution. That's like something that would make Steve Rogers shed a tear, I think.
Oh God. I also love how we have Hanks basically being like, oh shoot.
I just love that message, by the way. Yeah, all right, so Hanks feels.
No, shoot. I kind of forgot my place here. Oh, just go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, so now we're in the so basically, from what I understand, all the U2 stuff on the ground here. It's all practical. It's all and they're using the. I love how they use this big old school camera. I love seeing like the giant camera. By the way, it's they pulled it. They did the research on this. It's like this. I don't know if these are actual working cameras, but they definitely made it look as much like those old school cameras as they could there. Because I mean, those are spot on, and they're hilarious. How we just use these giant cameras back in the day. And just as things go on, we just love the miniaturized approach. It's funny. Okay, I think this guy here. I think the guy in the suit. I think we get a better shot of him later, but just in case we don't, I think that was Gary Powers Jr.
Okay, okay.
I think so. Yeah, it's one of the guys in the suits on the base. That's him. I think when they walk to the U2, I think that's when you see him best. Like he's the guy on the right. I think. Again, I always love a good shot like this. Love seeing all the evidence on the tables and like they ransack the apartment. They got all the evidence laid out there, and of course, with the legalese of it all, folks. And again, it's Tiki and I fan of like a really well written procedural, like in the most unconventional way procedural, like a Better Call Saul. You have like the minutia here that goes a long way. Where hey, did you get this with a warrant? And again, like James Diamond has absolutely does have a case here, but again, like he's kind of it's an uphill battle. Like yeah, we're gonna look past those
Oh, like
little
we're gonna release a Russian spy on the grounds of a warrant. It's like when most people just want to shoot him dead in on the side of the street.
exactly, but he has every right. To, it is they goofed up during this. Again, basically, what he's citing here is actual legal jargon, all fruit of the tainted, fruit of the poisonous tree. You know, the old adage of you get something without a warrant, or if you botch something up during the acquisition of evidence, that means it's not admissible in court. Which, again, secondly, all this evidence is not admissible in court. Then, to be fair, in real life, you have to make an argument for if everything goes out, but essentially, that's what he's trying to do here. So
Uh-huh.
they were on the line.
Dragon, I feel like The Post is almost a spiritual successor to this movie, just not nearly as good.
I think this movie gives Spielberg the confidence to make the post of, you know what, I did such a good job. I had such a good time making Bridge of Spies with Tom Hanks. I'm going to do another biopic. I'm going to work Tom Hanks into that too.
Yeah, I'm just like I don't know. I'm sure once you see The Post, you'll like it just fine. I'm just saying it doesn't have the umph of this movie. It doesn't have kind of like the forward momentum. It's basically kind of like I think this is what I was getting at with the Hanks thing I was about to bring up was it's almost like this is the start of Hanks being like the uber patriotic, like, like Jimmy Stewart of it all. And then once we get to The Post, it's almost playing it a little too safe. It's almost just like Hanks is like just a walking billboard for like America is great. God bless America. God, like frankly, God bless upper, like upper class white dudes.
And again, here's what I'm talking about. Michael Kahn, he's a genius in the editing room on this. My God, he's just
Yep.
again like the cut from the beginning of the case to the Pledge of Allegiance. And again, this is another big reason Spielberg took on the movie because he lived through this Cold War paranoia where you go to school and they free and he did what Noah Schnapp does later on here where he in response to what he learned in the classroom here, the duck and cover, the footage of the bomb, all of this. He was conserving water in the tub and everything. That Spielberg did that in real life. So I mean, again, out of the fear and you see, I don't know if you know this, Tiki. It's kind of like an assumed thing. I believe this footage actually might be the case. I'm not entirely sure if it was a recreation because they did these tests all the time. We saw that enacted in Crystal Skull, but there was a threat of like a 50 megaton bomb in Phoenix. There was always the threat of that having, because basically, if that bomb went off, it would have taken all of Phoenix. But that was kind of the old adage. I forget if that was like that footage they're using is from that actual bomb test, like replicating what would happen if it went off in Phoenix or not. I'm not entirely certain. But the point is,
So I feel like that classroom scene is a really good representation of Spielberg's inherent ability to work with kid actors.
oh sure, that too. And again, this kid's he's enacting a chapter from Spielberg's life right now. And again, this honestly, if I had to pull anything out, this is the most daddy issue scene of the. Again,
Yep.
pulling something from
Yep.
real life there. And again, I hesitate on saying issues because bear in mind, I think you were right in the grander scheme. It is daddy issues because he's leaving, he's relating the experience of like when his father was like in a dangerous situation. That's what he's relating in regards to the issues. But this feels more like a daddy experience than a daddy.
I'm telling you, man, Steven Spielberg is like, he's the world's most expensive self-help therapist. You know what I mean? He's just like helping himself through the magic of big budget movie making.
Yeah. I do like that it's a scene where father's explaining kind of the moral gray and kind of the duty of it all to his kid here, where he's got to he has a duty to kind of give this guy the best defense that he can, and he has a right to it. And of course, now this I think I dropped this reference earlier on kind of the Mr. Robot of all. Like we love good paranoia, like him going through the rainy streets and hiding and all that stuff. That was shot very well, by the way. I think we trick. Yeah, had a lot of was very well shot. And one of the great recurring themes of this movie is the most paranoid location you can have. If we learned anything from the first season of Mr. Robot is the subway.
Oh God, yes.
That's what I'm saying. So forgive my son,
man.
Mr. Robot, but I think the point still stands here. Again, like this, the way we use the subway here and the newspapers is like this great visual cue of like eyes are on everything. And visually, we're seeing.
I love how in
is,
that scene it's like literally nothing is going on, but it illustrates everything.
exactly, and again, visually with all these newspapers, all with like practically the same headline about you, about the case that you're working on with your name in there, and they're all seeing you, staring at you. It's like, oh, it's perfect, so well directed. I love this too, and this is like a little moment that goes by here where James he basically stands up and he tries to, as the verdict's being read, he tries to basically mount a fleeting defense for one. Again, it's by the book. He has to try it while he can. Again, the judge is very callously says denied, and it's just, as he's going on there, it's just the true to life thing where you have to try those things in the moment and just see if they work. And in this case, did not work. So I would say, in my opinion, because basically I'm really all roughly, I think by the numbers like 40 to 45 minutes is like where each of our act breaks are, and I think the case, basically, I think the point where he says that he's filing an appeal, I think that might be where Act One ends.
I mean that in the definition of Act One and the three act structure, Dragon. That's when we get the drive, because the whole drive of the movie is kind of like the exchange taking place, and I feel like that is kind of like the driving force behind it. Like we need to establish what our goal is. Essentially, that's the end of Act One.
Sure. Right. Let's see. So oh yeah, I believe this is the standing man speech right here, where he's basically saying, he's basically what Donovan's doing right now. He's fighting because now he's been rendered guilty, and basically he still now, folks. Just because he's Brendan Gilly does not mean the movie's over by any stretch, because he still has to fight to save the
That'd be a
guy's
really
life.
quick movie.
It would have been a tragic movie and very inaccurate movie,
Oh
because
God!
the story did not end there. It would have
Can
been a
you
horrible.
imagine just like, and then just the Looney Tunes like da 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 da
Well, I
da.
guess imagine Gary Powers Jr. here. He's like, hey, wait a minute. There's a whole. This didn't happen at all.
Like, what? Why did you guys waste like 10 minutes of plot with that weird guy from The Leftovers explaining my story when you don't even do anything with it?
Yeah, but in all seriousness, again, back on the point here is that the fact that the espionage was punishable by death. So again, they wanted to send him to the chair, and Donovan mounted a defense to save his life here. And again, a defense that was utilized in a relationship with the judge, which was very smart. And again, he had all the logical arguments at the ready, so it was all really well done there. So again, this whole standing man story is really good. And again, it kind of it kind of lets Donovan in a personal place. Too. We don't get a lot of details about Rylance, but by the same token, like he says, like his father and his family mentions that just in passing here, and mention that in passing, and lumping him into this really personal story from his past, even kind of dismissively, just kind of telling him as it is. But it's kind of a subtle, great compliment to Donovan, saying, "Hey, I appreciate what you're doing for me, and by doing that, I'm gonna. You don't know a lot about me because I'm a good spy, but hey, here's a little thing about my family that I'm telling you in a very truthful manner." So you can just, again, the way he tells the story, you get a sense he's telling the truth that he is.
Yeah, it's like just a little nugget of trust that he shares between the two of them.
Basically, this friendly neighbor, like a friend of his father's, just kind of got beaten for standing up to him, and just kept standing up. It's a beautiful little.
All right, Dragon, I am actually kind of fading out, so you know what I need to do? I need to go downstairs and grab a coffee. Do you think you can hold the fort for a minute?
Yeah, I can hold the fort.
Okay, okay. Give me one. Uno momento, friend.
So again, it really builds the bond between these guys. Again, is that he treats them with dignity and within reason. We're going to see him give him more and more as the movie goes on. The relationship kind of gets stronger. But again, like in this scene again, so he's given the standing man story, and Donovan is just treating him with dignity, given to him straight. And again, like he's not willing to. Like as later on we check in with him and continue on the case, like he's like give him paints and stuff, and like like I believe in this scene actually, yeah, sorry, in this scene also having to get a little wrapped up on all the notes here, folks, is that he did give him like cigarettes and stuff. He's given small courtesies that will build ultimately to the paints, which will go full circle with the payoff of that. So here we go. And again, I love the dynamics. I don't mean to keep citing Better Call Saul. I was just a huge fan of that show, and again, that show just gets kind of true to life legalese right. And we do that here too, where again we see that outside of the courtroom, it's not personal. I love seeing that again. That we're in a movie where no one's really the bad guy; they're all just kind of in a tense situation. The judge here, again, like he also had like a mandate, like Donovan did, of okay, we gotta give this guy a trial. He wants to make it a speedy trial in all senses of the word. And outside of the courtroom, it's nothing personal. They're still really friendly towards each other. Again, like they're coworkers, practically. Co-workers, I mean, for all we know, it could be maybe like a mentor thing, but again, I don't really think they're going for that, but you never know. And by the same token, in this scene, though, while they are friendly, there is a line where the judge, it's his house, so he wants final say on things. So I'm going to read it this way, just kind of happening to me in the moment here. I might read it as this might be a foreshadow for, like, where you're at, like, where basically you're a visitor to a foreign land. In this case, when you're a visitor, the guy whose home or whose domain you're going to, they have final say, and you can only do so much. And I think that's why the judge gets final say here. It's like it's like a little memorable bit that later on is going to be a huge crux of Donovan's journey into to Berlin. Yeah.
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. All right, coffee time. So where are we in the conversation?
All right. Well, we're basically he's talking with the judge here, and he's kind of sweet talking the judge here, and just kind of laying out all the arguments he can, all logical and ethical, like basically just compelling him not to kill, not to rule that our spy get killed here again for the very practical reason. And again, does come to fruition, and he's absolutely not wrong here. But I love that it's motivated by that personal, like. He doesn't want his guy. Again, he'll soon be calling him his guy, but still at this point, he's not calling him his guy yet. He wants to say, he wants to save his life. And again, the
I
judge is
love how
like,
the judge, he's just like, all right, you did a good job. Like, you've convinced me, but good seeing you, Jim. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
that.
It's like,
At the end of the day, I love that he's bringing the insurance perspective to a criminal case, which is nice. And again, why Donovan was so effective here that he thought like no lawyer would ever think in many respects. Well, I mean, no negotiator would ever think in any respect. Like, hey, we need a bargaining chip. Bargaining chip's not bad. It's like if you always think a few steps ahead in the insurance game. That's what he's doing here. That's what he sells the judge on.
uh-huh.
So I think after the aftermath of this scene's where Act One ends. I really do. So roughly maybe a little over 45 minutes, I guess. I mean, an argument can be that literally after the verdict's rendered, then we get an Act Two. But I just figured that the whole like he's not done with the case yet, which basically is the inciting incident of the story. Of okay, well he could just be done in the story right now, but no, he's got more to do. So
Like, this would be a really short movie, but it'd still be like, well, it's like his life is fundamentally over, but at least he's not dead.
like again, if we're like a serialized TV movie or if like a mini series, then it could have ended here, and then the next episode would be.
Oh God, you're right. You're absolutely
That's the
right.
thing, because technically, if they, as long as they get the right verdict, so the family wouldn't be like, oh, okay, there better be a sequel or something, because we're missing a lot here.
But Dragon, speaking of sequels, I would love to see a Bay of Spies that tackles the Bay of Pigs.
I'm sure there's a good story there. Just might, I doubt we're going to get Spielberg back for that, because you've been there, done that. I already told this guy's story. I can't do it again. What are you nuts?
So this is a really compelling scene right here. Of course, I feel like it's an easy get, to have drama in the courtroom, have everyone shouting like, "No, arrest him!" You know what I mean? Like, it's an easy get, but it's always very effective. So I don't blame Spielberg for doing it.
So right here, this
I
is one.
love just all the sea of extras, Dragon. That's going to be something that I want you to pay attention to through Spielberg Month in terms of one of his tropes, because specifically with one in particular that we're getting to,
Hmm.
that I've strongly advocated for is filled with like tense scenes where there's just a million extras in the background.
Here's my favorite little detail. I love all the light bulbs on the ground. Just again, it's a perfect little period detail. Like all in the aftermath of the sea of kind of paparazzi, you're gonna have all these little light bulbs on the ground that you're just stepping on. It's a great little touch. So basically, the end of this conversation is where I feel Act One ends. And again, it's up to interpretation where everyone like kind of only the editor really knows where Act One, Two, and Three are.
Yeah, yeah.
Actor, well, the editor and the director, I guess. And again, like Alan, basically he heard Alan Alda here when Tom when he heard when you heard him say that he's filing for an appeal. That's where I love that you saw him like kind of take notice during that scene, because he's thinking, okay, we did a good job. We're just gonna get out of here in an orderly fashion. Like, yeah, we're filing an appeal. Like, wait, what? At the end of the day, it's again, I love Tom Hanks just being a tough guy, but not in the conventional sense here, where he says, "Look, you look me in the eyes, you tell me that we don't have a case, I'll drop it right now." It's oh yeah, that's a great poster trailer moment right there. It's a great
Oh
trailer.
yeah. Oh yeah.
This is good. I like how we have kind of a subtle divide here in the kind of the window frames and the use of the window panes here. They're on separate sides.
Symbolism.
Yes, and I love the radio. So again, the intimation here is that a few years may have passed in the appeal process. And again, I'll say this: I get two gripes in the movie. One is not, again, I don't hold anything personally into this first gripe. I'm just saying that for any critics of the movie, with the only real inaccuracies, they had to make things cinematic and they had to speed up some details with the events of years and stuff. That's all. I mean, everything really does happen in this movie. It's just certain things, they may have happened more after or before certain events. That's about it.
Gotcha.
And
That
again,
makes sense though. I mean, it's exactly what you and I did for the nostalgia critic thing. So
sure. I mean, specifically, it's when we get to the Berlin stuff. That's all of this is pretty on the money. Just one thing, but they didn't really. They could have made the change in years a little more apparent, because, for all intents and purposes, years do go by. I'm just assuming the
I kind
radio
of
is kind of
agree, Dragon, because I got to tell you, this is the first time hearing about like a bunch of years going by.
I mean, again, I'm not reading too much into that, because I'm just saying you follow the dates. You go by history. It's like we do start in '57. The events said to have happened in 1960, and roughly, from what I understand, wraps up in '62. So a few years go by.
Uh huh.
And I would imagine that all the Berlin stuff, they probably trimmed out the years on that half of it. But I mean, basically, the appeal process and the prisoner of war process, a few years may have gone by on those two. But again, it's not really apparent. So they could have made that more apparent, and later on we'll get to like this one thing where I think it's a little bit of a Hollywood touch, and we'll get there.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, and this is a good
Oh
scene though.
man, this is an intense scene right here, man.
It is, and this compared to what I'm going to bring up later on, this is Hollywood in the right sense. Where again, it's a dangerous situation where again people are crazy in this world. They're going to do drive-bys to make a point that hey, you defended a spy. You know, it's like again uber patriotism at its most terrifying. Also, a little tease at what we might see in Mr. Rogers with Tom Hanks again. Just with
oh God, you're absolutely right. Oh my God,
it's not a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Dragon, this is his audition. Dragon, he's calming down children. He's calming down children.
See, in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood,
he's
it might be
children through a tough situation in a sweater. Dragon,
it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, but no one said anything about a night in the neighborhood.
Oh my God.
Okay, now, in all seriousness, getting off of the Mr. Rogers tangent because I don't want to take anything away
from
him.
Of course.
If he was wearing red, then we could keep going with it, but he's not. So, I do love the staging. I love the lighting. I love just kind of this closed and like porch setting, and again the divide here with the kind of the cop and the detective, where again like the cops letting them have it, and again like I love these points like, hey, I'm a serviceman too. Don't talk to me about that. Like I know what you're talking about. There's definitely a divide in law enforcement. Again, everyone's a patriot to a large extent, and I mean, especially during these times, people rallied together. You'd be hard pressed to find someone who wasn't on America's side during all this.
Yeah, and I do like how the movie has this kind of like ratcheting up of tension, where as the movie goes on, it gets more and more nail biting. Where you're just like, oh my God, you know, like how much can this guy handle? And Dragon, I think the definitive kind of like not the end of Act 2 per se, but probably the midway point in the movie is the trip to Moscow when he arrives in Moscow. Like that is like kind of like the I would say that would be like in more theater terminology, if you're looking for a 2-act play, that would be like the beginning of Act 2.
Sure, yeah, you're right. If we're doing the 2-act thing, then you're absolutely right in that regard. Basically, when it's between when he goes there or basically, if we're looking at like a 2-act structure, we're at basically a little over the hour point. That's when that would happen. I suppose that's either directly when the U2 goes down, and then it starts with him going to Moscow, or it's just literally ends with him getting ready to go to Moscow. That's where Act 1 would end.
Sure.
So, by the way, real quick, I wanted to mention too. I love that cop's line to look what you're doing. Think about what you're doing to your family. So it's a really cutting line that cop had to him.
I'm sorry, this might sound mean, but Jesse Plemons just has such a distinct face that I always just like his face just stands out in a crowd so much in movies.
I mean, just he's got a distinct way about him. I think a little less the face, more is the whole like kind of
the hair. I don't know. It might be the face.
I don't know. It's kind of the hair and the cadence of it all. Honestly, it's that laid back demeanor that Jesse Plemons has, where it's kind of that it can be. He just seems like a laid back guy. But that laid back quality can be played to like a menace, or it can be played to. It can be understated or it can be menacing. It's kind of like the dials on.
Dragon, let me tell you, his role in Game Night is basically like Todd, but if Todd was hilarious.
Oh God! So again, this is what I'm talking. So this the other. So Abel had like a nickel. Basically, there was a concealed message in the nickel, and this is what I'm talking about. Tiki. This is classic silver dollar tech. My God.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, there he is. The guy on the right who just left in the black suit. That was Powers Jr.
Okay.
That was the guy. Of course, we're paralleling our events here. Really good editing, by the way, just kind of setting things up. One guy's going to the Supreme Court, and as he goes to the Supreme Court, things are going to torpedo both there and here.
Now, what do you think of the music, Dragon?
Crap! I meant to mention this in the beginning. I'll mention it here.
Yeah.
So John Williams.
Let's go for it.
Yes, I meant to bring this up. So this is the first film that John Williams didn't do for Spielberg, because John Williams was sick at the time. He wanted to do the music for this movie, but he was gravely ill at the time. Well, he was sick. I presume it would have to be something really serious to get John Williams not to do a score for Spielberg. And we have, in his place, we have Thomas Newman, the guy who did Cinderella Man, Finding Nemo.
Yeah, very accomplished in his own right.
Exactly. So, I mean, Thomas Newman. I think he was. So Thomas Newman, as Andrew Stan has said many a time, Thomas Newman does the music so well, especially with the Pixar films. That it's a character in its own right, and I think to a lesser extent we have that here. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean the music has character to it.
And Dragon, honestly, that's one of the things that I feel like is missing by and large from modern, like, big budget blockbusters. Like, I feel like, if we're talking about geek culture stuff, Guardians is the only thing that really does that, and even Guardians does it through licensed songs. You know what I mean? Like, there's good, memorable beats to it, but I feel like we're really lacking in scores that really think outside the box and really make you just get in your head.
Let me give you an example. Michael Giacchino. I love Giacchino's work constantly. However, I feel the Pixar films are the only time he's really allowed to really stretch his creative muscles.
I feel like
Again,
all the other times Giacchino gets hired on, it's basically like, okay, do your Giacchino thing, but for this, if you know what I mean.
exactly. Again, because I mean, Incredibles is for all intents and purposes that's Giacchino's baby in terms of score. Like he came up with that from the ground up. That's all. That's all him. And the Up is like it's very important to that movie, so they have to get the themes right. So again, like Giacchino, when he has all the tools at his disposal, and he's allowed to come up with something from the ground up. Where something like when he does a Marvel movie, I get a sense of, and I can't prove this. I'm not saying he does any bad. He's never done a bad score, but he does like sometimes it's like a background score more than like a score.
Uh
I think the issue there is that I think it's like I don't know. It's like someone from Marvel telling him like we got action on the screen. We don't want to get in the way of action on the screen sometimes. But again, I don't want to just be dismissive like that. So we don't know.
So of course, Dragon, it can't be a Spielberg historical movie starring Tom Hanks without a freaking courtroom speech.
Now this feels very Jimmy Stewart, like
Oh
Mr.
yeah,
Deeds goes to
absolutely.
war,
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Absolutely.
right? Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This is the one gripe I have in the movie here. So I think when we're in the cockpit, this looks great. However, and here's the thing, I think Spielberg's really proud of this because remember that Spielberg documentary that came out? I think he was. I heard it somewhere. I don't think it was that. It was either a documentary or somewhere. So I think he's really proud of this scene. I gotta tell you though, I mean, it doesn't look bad. It's like the most Hollywood element of the movie, where everything else is so grounded and so like so perfect to me, and like how it was shot and brought to life. This is the only element. Like when the plane's
But
going down.
Dragon, it's the preliminary style to Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
No,
I was
seriously.
all
I feel like that's kind of what it's going for. It's kind of going for the intense realism of Dunkirk.
yeah.
Um,
Only problem is Ian Nolan made a deal with the devil so he could do all of his things practically. That's pretty much that's Nolan's. He can do all his plain stuff practically. Like, hey, it's like the one thing that he can rub in Spielberg's face. Like, hey, Spielberg, you done all that stuff, but you still can't shoot in the air practically.
oh
Ha!
man. Oh man.
Like the one thing that Nolan gets, like he does all of his plain stuff practically. I'm sure on some level there's like a director's bar somewhere. It's like, hey, like Nolan sends him over a
No, I'm
drink.
just
Hey,
picturing like a Saturday morning cartoon of like I don't know, like Spielberg and J.J. Abrams and like Danny Boyle and then like God, this is gonna sound ridiculous.
George Lucas is the retired guy who bought the bar.
Of
He's
course,
like
of
like
course.
Cheers. He owns the bar.
But then Christopher Nolan comes in, and Christopher Nolan is like a swiper from Dora the Explorer. He's kind of like the generic bad guy, and he's like, he comes in on like a Red Baron plane. You know what I mean? And he's like, ha
Right.
ha 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 ha! I can do everything practically. And George Lucas is like, there once was a time when people thought that CGI was impressive.
Isn't that right, James? Talking to James Cameron.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Oh God.
Okay. Anyway, in all seriousness, I could go on for that. I could justify that too with the whole like James Cameron's new show that he has on AMC. But let's get on point here.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not crazy with this, right? It's a little. I think the CG's not bad. It's a little. Every other element of the movie is so practical and down to earth. Like the one element that feels like bigger than life, and like, I mean, all honesty, I think they could have sold me on not seeing the like. I could have seen old footage of the crash, like recreated footage in black and white on a TV of the crash. But then again, it wouldn't make any sense why we'd be seeing that. But you know what I mean? Like honestly, I could have done without seeing the crash because they had me so in the bag for the movie, though. But
Yeah, it's out of place, Dragon, but it's funny how you and I are sitting here literally like kind of complaining like how dare they put an action sequence in.
But that's the thing. The movie's so compelling. I'm more compelled by any action sequence while I'm watching the events of the movie unfold, especially when we get to that third act, or what builds to that third act. It's where all the action really is. I'm down for that. Like I think just sometimes in movies, and not complaining or like about Spielberg or anything. I'm just, in general, for movies, sometimes there is a mandate of like we have to have action. We have to have action beats where we can't just get away with conversation. Something exciting has to happen. It happens all the time on TV with superhero shows, especially. We have to have fights, and we can't have like fly episodes from Breaking Bad these days. It's like why can't we have more of those?
This is why we can't have nice things, Dragon.
Exactly. So again, the radio is kind of that year device for me. That's the only thing I can factor in that kind of explains that time has passed. And I think that's Spielberg's answer to it. I don't know, but that's for me. That's my little head can of like, okay, so when we see the radio going, that just tells us some time has passed.
I can see that. I feel like this movie would have been better served to actually have title cards telling us when the
And
time
I
has
don't think
passed.
you're wrong at all. I don't think you're wrong at all. I'm just saying, like what we have, I can live with the
Just
radio.
go a little bit traditional with it, Spielberg. It's not going to hurt you.
By the way, Tom was a real prick in that previous scene. There's like him closing the door after James wants that. I think the idea is, well, no, it's just that basically Tom was kind of undermining James and his case for Abel there, and he's kind of like didn't tell him about something. Most likely, I guess that my assumption is that he didn't file the paperwork, and that's at least what it led me to believe that his partner did not file the paperwork, which is why Abel did not get his anything overturned or anything. You know.
Mm. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So this is so clever. I really caught the rewatch. This really stood out to me. No, the first watch it was there, but it really hits again. I appreciate this a lot more rewatching it. Where right from the get go, Abel's smart enough to realize, okay, this isn't my wife. I know it's not my wife. And now he did have a wife in real life. Now I think her name's like
You're gonna have to
Al.
clarify some of this family stuff to me, Dragon, because I didn't quite like. I
It's
think the idea is that like we'll kind of get to it when we get to the Moscow stuff, but I think the idea is that we as an audience are supposed to be just as confused as Hanks is over the whole situation.
That's true, and again, very simple. It's like Abel tells you this from the very beginning. No, it's not his wife. And when we go there, as Hanks kind of jokes with Rylance later on, like, yeah, like they looked as confused as your family, intimating those are actors playing playing his family. Those aren't his real family. So
God,
it's a ploy.
how very
Basically,
meta of you, Dragon.
but no, seriously. The point is that it's their way of communicating a message like, hey, we want to trade, but they can't just say that openly because they're not going through the proper channels, or they want to trade. They're telling Abel's lawyer we want to trade for Abel.
Sure, sure.
So it's really clever. It's an old espionage trick. And again, we have all these old tricks here. And by the way, I love this juxtaposition. So we saw the earlier court case, and now we see the flip side. We're now in Americans, on the receiving end. And again, we know he's in big trouble. Never a good sign when all the people are clapping behind you.
God.
By the way, it's never a good sign.
That and again, this movie, I keep harping on it, Dragon. One of the real strengths of this movie is it shows off kind of like the dangers of being an enemy in a foreign land, and that's what you were talking about with Spielberg's father in a lot of respects. So it really does very much hit on that in a lot of ways, and that's why Dragon, like I said, all the best cowboys have daddy issues. Like you can't escape them when it comes to this guy.
By the way, here's some more familiar casting. Peter McRobbie as Alan Doles here, and he's very on the money. And of course, he was Father Lantom
This
in
guy gets
Daredevil.
around. He's a pretty established character actor.
And he was like the interim mayor on Gotham this
Right,
on
right.
season 4. So he was again. I really like this actor, by the way. Peter McRobbie's really Robbie. He's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I like here he's kind of I love that he's treating Donovan with civility here. He's just kind of he's expressing the situation. He's very much kind of asking for him to kind of show his patriotism here. And he's treating him with courtesy and honesty instead of like Hoffman just kind of following him ominously to kind of like
Right,
show
right.
that he has the high ground. I mean, that's the
I
thing.
feel like
Hoffman.
Hoffman is almost kind of like a parody of Keys. Like if okay, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but Hoffman is if okay, the
Well, we
whole
compared Christopher Nolan to Swiper the Fox. I don't think we get more ridiculous than that, Tiki.
okay, basically the whole bit with Howard Hamlin like jumping up and down and pretending to be a spy.
Yeah.
That's what Hoffman is, Dragon. That's what Hoffman is in this movie. Anyways.
Anyway, but yeah, in all seriousness, I do think he's. Honestly, Hoffman does have an ego about him. That's the thing. Hoffman wants to. He's the opposite of like if Hanks is about the American ideal, then Hoffman here he's kind of acting what America thinks the ideal is. He's just like the whole. He's uber patriot. He's all patriotism and no ideal.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And because of that, he's saying, "Hey, I'm so good at my job, I can follow you in the rain, make a dramatic entrance." And of course, I love that Donovan just kind of took that away from him, saying he hid from him. Says what?
All right,
So,
here we go. We're getting into the big conflict of it all. Like Hanks is just like, "Are you serious? Like you're already dragging me through the mud. You're dragging my family through the mud. You're putting me in an impossible situation, and now you want me to essentially go behind enemy lines?"
and again, we're really building up the kind of the danger of Berlin here. And again,
Oh
this is
yeah.
Berlin during its most tumultuous time, by the way, where again, it's a really rough transitional phase, and again, sides are being
I
declared.
mean, let's face it, Dragon. This would be, to make it real, this would basically be the equivalent of American going into North Korea right now.
Ah, essentially, yeah, but yeah, I'm just saying the way futures are going. I don't know, but yes, I'll agree with the point you're making.
Oh,
Yes, the point you're making. Yes, I get you.
sure.
But yeah, so basically, yeah, remember, folks, it's the race between the Americans and the Soviets, where they have like an operative on each side, and it's a race to get to the guy before he spills the information he has, and to kind of protect themselves. That we need to get the guy back, not just to save face, but to secure any information they have, and to make sure none of our information gets extracted from. So that's why it's kind of a race against the clock to get their guy, which again is why we probably fudge some certain like kind of years and dates and stuff, because we just want to make it happen more like it's clear cut and it's simple. Okay, the guy he's basically it's a mission impossible. He's tasked with a mission. He carries it out over essentially what feels like a week or a weekend. I don't know how long he's in Moscow. Probably like a week or so.
It feels like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. So I'd say like an extended weekend. Maybe.
Uh-huh.
Again, now we're introduced to Berlin, Germany. Now, if I'm getting my Cold War history here right, at least what I think what the movie's trying to spin me, and I could be wrong here, folks, just take it with a grain of salt, but I think this is how it went. If I'm right, of course, post World War II, what happened was the Russians were kind of, as we'll see with another thing we're going to be talking about this month. The Russians they were kind of becoming more in vogue after World War II. And in doing that, they were kind of spreading their territory, and they were claiming, I think, I guess the East.
I don't mean to cut you off, but can we just praise the cinematography in the scene really quick?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh my God, this is. Here's
like
a fun.
Just this long tracking shot of the guy on the bike with the wall and just everything going on around. It's like again, Dragon, again with the extras and the chaos. That's one of the things I really want you to strive to pay attention to the Spielberg month. Extras and chaos is going to be a big running theme here through these movies.
Oh, of course, and especially when we get to the latter half. Oh God, believe me.
Oh God, yes.
So, by the way, okay, so this fun fact. So with the cinematographer, I'm glad you brought it up. Janusz Kaminski, again, Spielberg's guy. He's been his guy again. His editor and his cinematographer basically are like his guys for like a number. Ever since they started, they've never left them essentially. And Kaminski actually was around during all this, during the Berlin Wall. So that's why he has such a great frame of reference for all this. He was there during all this.
Yeah, and it really is. I think this is kind of like the spectacle that the power scene was trying to be without hitting us over the head of like, ooh, it's an action scene. You know what I mean?
It's
that kind of visual splendor, but it fits in with the rest of the movie.
Before we get in the prior, just to kind of economize what I was saying before here. Essentially, if I'm right, one side's the Soviets and the other side is just the Germans. And I believe it's west is the Germans and the east is the Soviet territory, Germany.
Uh-huh.
I believe at least I think it's what the movie's saying. Again, I'm not like a history buff on the Cold War, and more for some of the other aspects. I think that's how it went. I'm pretty sure that's like what the divide was. Anyway, so okay, here's how the story behind Pryor here. So Pryor, who again, I think he might have also been a consultant in the movie. He's still around. Pryor, he became a professor, so he's still around. So Pryor was a student, and he went to the Americans really Hoffman specifically. Hoffman really holds it against this guy that he went to Berlin to study during like it was like a bad idea. It's on this guy's own head. He's really unsympathetic towards Pryor here, and Pryor was just an innocent kid. He Berlin was known for having a really good library. Went to
Really?
Berlin.
Is that why? Is that why he went to Berlin just because of the library?
There was more than that I was about to get to,
I,
but
I
I'm
was
just
about
saying.
to say, like, New York has an excellent
No,
library.
I'm saying like Berlin. You had he he went to Berlin for the libraries and specifically so he could interview Eastern Europeans. That was kind of like a I don't know if it was all just of East Berlin, but he was kind of interviewing people and he was studying Soviet stuff and he wanted to kind of explore the territory and kind of get a lay of the land and learn stuff directly from the land. That's why he went there. So it was kind of learning what he wanted to learn about in the location.
And this is one of these things, like one of those scenes that makes you feel helpless in a way. And Dragon, you know what I'm dreading. Like, folks, there's a film in the lineup that's iconic Spielberg, that's a tough sit that I haven't seen yet, and I am just like my stomach is churning, folks. I am just like I have like butterflies in my throat about watching that movie.
I love that he saved this girl, though, by the way. I love he told her to go home. And I love the little detail where basically he got through like this little crack in the wall, then that crack was sealed up. And they wanted, you got to remember, the idea is, again, because he was a student, and this happened to a lot of people. They, People were divided from their families. If you wanted to go to school, school was on the other side, and your family was on the other side of the wall. That's kind of how that territory went. So they were just trying to get to the other side, get her to her family, I believe.
Right, right,
and
yeah.
uh, and that's the thing of it. So, and the thing is, you were allowed to go from either side, but the problem is you had the checkpoints to deal with, and of course, as we see, things can go wrong at the checkpoints. So, it was definitely it's again, if
And I
someone
love
did.
how this movie just does a lot of tension with the mere idea of waiting in line. Waiting in line, the epic Spielbergian monument.
It's like Spielberg made a movie off that Fairly Odd Parents gag, Escalator Land.
Okay,
But
so I do like the hard cut to Berlin. You know what I mean? To me, that is like, as we said, that is kind of like the definitive like act two of a theater show right there.
right, and again, I like that he's now referring to Abel
His guy, his
as his
guy,
guy. At least at this point, I forget if it's in this scene or not, but he's definitely referring to. He's accepting him
and
as
that's
as
my
his guy.
favorite runner in the whole movie. Dragon is that his guy bit.
And his guy, and would it work? Those are the winners right there. I tell you that, and of course the payoffs are fantastic. I love the phrasing. By the way, there's a wrinkle. I just love that phrasing. Just little wrinkle. And again, by the way, they're throwing all this at him last minute because of said wrinkle, where they're warning him about Pryor. And again, basically they're probably gonna try to force Pryor on you. Basically, it's like a negotiating tactic. We're gonna try to give you something you don't want, uh, to kind of fit their own needs.
Mm.
Basically, what they're going to try to play the heartstrings so they can make kind of hold on to the more valuable asset. That's kind of what the thing is. And again, that's why we have the fake family, by the way. And we'll get there. It's a really clever ploy when we get there.
Oh yeah. The fake family is like I said, Dragon. I've only seen the movie once, so it's something like I mean, I kind of generally get what they're going for with it, but it's just like it's an out of left field kind of bizarre scene. And I like
It
I
is,
said, I think in the movie you're supposed to kind of replicate how stupefied Hanks feels.
yeah. So again, we have this big old curveball thrown at him with all this last minute stuff here, and again, it's like he's doing this for they're selling it to him like, wait, no, we don't care about pride. We're doing this for the greater good. Save kind of the military. Save the CIA man. Don't save the. We got to save the
Right.
CIA man again to protect our own secrets, protect everything, and also to show good faith here. We'll get to him later. Get to the young kid later.
Uh-huh.
It's for me. It's never pretty when America plays favorites. I think a lot of people would agree on that. But again, this is during the Red Scare, so that's why they're kind of playing favorites on a situation like this. And again, it's
And
something that makes me.
Dragon, as we kind of said, that's one of those things where Spielberg is kind of a master at examining stuff like that. And to me, Dragon, that's what makes a movie like Lincoln actually work, is the whole idea of like Lincoln was a situation where, America was very much kind of in this state of like, okay, something's got to change. Like, this is like, if this does not change, then we are screwed. Like, fundamentally, the things that have built this country up are going to metaphorically go down in flames.
All right, well, look, real quick, just the last thing on the whole Lincoln of it all is that, again, I really do need to give Lincoln another watch. I'm just afraid that it's going to turn into like Titanic for me. That's my fear rewatching Lincoln. It's going to feel like another sitting of Titanic.
And what's wrong with Titanic, Dragon? He should have been nominated, and then he should have won.
All right.
I apologize. Folks, check out Just Giggle It.
Yes, they're awesome.
Anyways.
Okay. Yes, so I love this wonderfully detailed.
Oh God, Dragon! Bridge of Spies, Bridge of Spies in the style of the "Are You a Cop" thing, where it's just like Hank and Rylance and Hoffman just going back and forth to each other, like, "Are you a spy? Are you a spy? Are you a spy?" Like Rylance is really soft spoken, like, "Are you a spy?"
Okay.
All right. Anyway,
so I love this little, again, this one talking about the ego of Hoffman, where again, Hoffman's not the bad guy. And again, he's just kind of America making kind of playing favorites. That's really what Hoffman is. Just he's working for America at a time where they're playing favorites, which means doesn't look pretty, but he's technically not in the wrong. Where right here is that this is this fun egocentric divide here, where while Donovan gets the dingy little room, Hoffman gets the Hilton.
Yes, of course.
I love that. And actually,
Dragon, that is the touches that remind me of kind of connecting Hoffman to Patrick Fabian in a way.
Oh sure, I told you this before, and I also tell you about it off here. I found the actor who's like a young Fabian. If they ever need a young Fabian, I found the perfect guy for him.
Which would be?
He's folks who watch the show. He's Blaine from iZombie. It's his name.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. His name's escaped me at the moment, but anyway, back to this.
Sorry.
I love this, by the way. I love that, we kind of had we had an exposition dump done in a really visual way where, the girl from earlier on, she was trying to look into Pryor, and again, basically we didn't have any subtitles, and what we did is we showed what she's asking instead of like seeing it unfold before us in text. It was a smart call on Spielberg's part.
Dragon, I feel like that's something that movies are doing more and more, is not having subtitles when it's another language. Isle of Dogs did that really well. Like Isle of Dogs kind of really used that to its advantage. It's definitely something interesting and kind of a sense of changing times in the industry, I think.
So again, well, no, I'll save it for later. Later's when it actually happens. So let's just say, let me say this. So the checkpoints, everything is actually shot in Berlin. Just they had to recreate the checkpoints and pieces of the wall. So a lot of that's it's recreated to a fault, though. It's like
that must have been a trip for Germans to see that kind of stuff. Like it'd be like, I don't know, like what would an American equivalent be, Dragon, of something that we're just really not proud of?
Well,
like, hey, folks, come see the recreation of the Southern Plantation House, complete with slaves.
I guess that actually, honestly, I do think that's probably. I think it fits what we're looking for. Yeah, I think that'll fit. Yeah. By the way, I love this. I know it's not intentional because these things did exist, but like I still note the name of these things are like the giant jack-looking things that have all the barbed wire around them. Like it reminds me of Saving Private Ryan, where those things were dropped as like coverage and like kind of these giant. I always figured the logic was you drop them from planes, and basically when the soldiers arrive on the shore, they hide behind them like to absorb the bullets and everything. Anyway, so we have like a lot of those there for the blockade, so it can remind me a little bit of Private Ryan with Tom Hanks there,
Mm-hmm.
By the way, this is something that actually still happens in Moscow. By the way, man, I know these kind of walking the line where he's at right now, but the random dogs that wander this trail. Moscow has this. I was watching a documentary. It was like in 2013, I think, with Phil Rosenthal, the guy who created Everybody Loves Raymond. He basically was doing the Russian adaptation of Everybody Loves Raymond, and it was a documentary, and there were still random wandering Russian dogs all over the place. It's like, I don't know what the problem is. Apparently, it still happens.
Kind of like the leftovers in a way.
Yeah, in a way.
All right, so speaking of random wandering things, Dragon, here's a random wandering Russian mob.
And again, he was warned about this. The gangs, the gangs in Russia. Well, it's Berlin, but it's occupied by Soviets. So essentially, if we say Russia, that's what we mean, folks.
Of course, maybe maybe pack something that's not from Saks Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, and by the way, so I love that payoff, by the way. It's a really great payoff we have with that line. It's like two really horrifying things are possibly revealed with that line. We'll get there. But I love that. Again, it's another example of we don't have subtitles here for in like you put you in Donovan's shoes here, where
Oh,
again
exactly,
you would be
exactly.
terrified. You don't know what they're saying, and like you're lucky this one guy can interpret a little bit. Okay, I'll say it. I'll say it here now. So I think, and it could go either way. Either way is effective. Either way still works. It's intimidating. I wonder if the secretary we're going to meet in the office, kind of the facilitator for Vogel. I wonder if this guy either instructed this gang to steal his coat,
Oh, I
or
like that. I like
either
that.
he one of two things. Either one works. He either instructed them specifically, like he gave him money to steal his coat, or he basically he's been keeping tabs on him since he entered the place, and that's why he knows what coat he had. So either way, it's still pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way he can know about what coat he wore. Then that coat's missing. At the very least, it's the second one. It'd be creepier if it's the first one. And again, this is what I'm talking about with the. I think. No, I know. I think that's. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Later on is when we see the law office here, and this is where we get the family. Up here. So
okay, so this is basically just like a fake family that they're using to kind of be a facade for his innocence. Is that?
No. Here's what Tiki. It's very simple. It's
Okay.
a very clever plan. Really, I didn't quite all the cleverness on the rewatch. It's very simply. It's a fake family. They're supposed to be kind of like, hey, they sent the letter, which of course they didn't really send the letter. But here's what it really is. This is what the cleverness of it all plays into that. It's continuing the cover story of like why they sent the letter, but what it really is that they're trying. It's a negotiation tactic. They want to get him thinking of his family, so he beckons on the deal. It's like,
Oh,
yes,
I like that. I like that.
That's the main reason they're getting. That's why she's all sob story, and you can tell that it's a facade because when she leaves, she's like she's not crying anymore. When she leaves, she's all composed when the mother leaves, like very simply, and she's not all sad. And yeah. By the way, I think in real life,
okay, this guy is I'm Cousin Drew's.
Yeah, and this guy's just putting there purely for comedy, and that's the thing. I love that. That's like a little tip off to the audience. That, okay, sun's off with these guys.
Cousin Drew's, yes, Cousin Drew's.
Of course, they have a great reveal with the family too, where basically Donovan was smart enough to, again, thanks to what Abel told him, he knows that this family's fake. In this scene, he knows that he has a really strong suspicion that they're fake, and he definitely confirms this one. It definitely gets confirmed for him later on when he kind of throws this in Vogel's face.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's lovely just showing Donovan smart, and again, smart by proxy of him listening to Abel. And again, like right now, like they just know that he's going to say something to him, and again, like her response has to be that she has to cry and lay on the waterworks to get him,
right,
to get him guilty. It's like, oh, like you mean it's not going to happen here? They knew it wasn't going to happen.
God,
it's all part of the act, and
Hanks is just kind of scooting over. Like, all right, let's just let this play out. God damn it! I've already got a cold. I'm already uncomfortable. This is going to be a long, extended weekend.
Yeah. And in real life, he did have, the wife and the wife and daughter were named Lydia, and I think like you call her Elena for short. I don't know if it's Helena for long ways because I think his nickname might have been Elena for her. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And we have our facilitator here. By the way, is creepy and vaguely. I say vaguely reminds me of either what was it, Tote from Raise the Lost Ark? The guy who's Peter Lorre-esque.
Oh, well, I just got a Peter Lorre vibe from this guy.
I'm saying in general, Peter Lorre. I'm saying if I want to make a specific Spielberg reference, it's that guy.
I think it's Totes you're thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, so it's either, like Totes or Peter Lorre, whichever you like to go with. So that's kind of definitely got a Lorre vibe from this guy. It's really good set design, too.
I love how Hanks is just like cutting to the chase here. It's just like, look, I don't care who to talk to. I was just sent to talk to someone. So are you the person to talk to or not?
Exactly. And it's a little late to say this, but on the whole, he's with the jacket and with everything. And in fact, he's got his coat still. I love the fashion on Hanks in this movie. Like, my favorite detail, I don't know, even when I was watching old episodes of Superboy, I love the suspenders look. I wish the suspenders look would come back, man. It's a good look. Even Fabian in the first season of Better Call Saul, he wore the suspenders, remember?
Yeah, I do.
You need more suspenders, darn it.
God,
it's a good look.
God. Like the classy suspenders, right?
Yeah.
Not like the Robin Williams
No, no,
rainbow
not the rainbow
suspenders.
suspenders. I'm just talking about the classy suspenders. Like again, like it's been ages since I've seen a Clark Kent who wore suspenders,
Oh my
Tegan. That's a
gosh.
good look. It really works for Clark Kent. Because you never see that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, getting off the suspender. I love the build up to Vogel, by the way. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I love it too. I also think it's just like, and Vogel is actually, let's face it, he is probably the closest thing this movie comes to having a villain.
You're right. I will argue, though, it's for one choice they made with him.
I
Because
guess so.
here's what I love. And that's a criticism that was lobbed to the movie with historical accuracy. Is that Vogel, with that one scene, you say, yeah, they were a little unfair to Vogel. They made him kind of villainous in that one scene. So, again, it's unclear like how much they skewed history. Because, honestly, he wasn't doing anything real evil. He was just doing kind of something real prickish to him to kind of show his power. But I love when we get the Vogel. I love that Vogel is kind of the German kind of inverse of Donovan, where he dresses like him from the earlier scene, and he has a law office that again is kind of the German reflection of Donovan's law office. Again, I think there's some parables because he's also a German lawyer. That's kind of the parable. So parallel, sorry.
Sure, sure.
Parable's the fable comparison. Anyway,
God.
little semantical thing is keep trying to break myself up. I keep saying parable when I mean parallel sometimes.
Dragon, my work's kicking my ass. I'm on my second espresso, so just know I'm kind of it's not that the movie's boring me, it's just that I'm trying to do, I'm like, look, I'll drink a whole 4-pack if I need be, okay.
Okay, well, here we go. Here's the cold blind hole. I got a cold and I want to go home. And again, he's got a cold main part because he had a long walk
I just
after
want
this.
to be in bed. Like, isn't that such a relatable, like, Tom Hanks everyman sort of thing to say, like, please, I just want to go to bed.
It is. It's great. And again, I love how he's using that as like that. Like, Tom Hanks has that super charming smile where he just gives that, again, that likable laugh off that he has if in these scenes you're just saying, look, I just want to get home, want to go to bed, just relating to the guy. Again, like this line, like at the buttons of the scene where he says, I had you should really get a coat. I had a coat. It was stolen. Oh, that's what you get for wearing that expensive brand of coat. Do you remember what the coat brand's called?
Saks Fifth Avenue.
Saks Fifth Avenue. Yes. It is a good line too. Like we little men, we just do our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Again, so again, using the comparison that he's a Powers is a pilot. He's doing his job too. And again, we get the real. This is the tension. Like this is the tension that Spielberg's father had to combat too. Like, hey, your guy committed an act of war. He's taking pictures of us. And then this line right here is where I love it. We have to get off this merry-go-round before our countries make the next mistake, because the next mistake could be our last one. It's a really good line that kind of epitomizes the Cold War. The next mistake
like
could
I
be
said,
our
Dragon,
last
this
one.
movie is almost kind of like the My Dinner with Andre of Cold War spy thrillers in a way.
Oh my God, you're right. It kind of
like,
is.
It's nothing but conversation, but it's so engaging. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh my God, yes, please tell me more. Tell me more. Let's sit down and have more stirring intellectual debates.
This is how you make a conversation suspenseful and gripping, folks. It's how you do it.
One of these days we'll get to My Dinner with Andre, Dragon. Like, that's my master plan.
Right.
Anyways. All right, Dragon. I am now opening coffee number 3.
Bum, bum, bum. All right, so now he's
like in caffeine. I'm just, I almost kind of want to just get like a full, like, syringe of caffeine and just inject it right into my bloodstream right about now, because the movie deserves it. You know what I mean? I'm not bored by the movie. I'm just physically kind of worn out from work. So I'm just like, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
I'm saying like an IV or something, like a coffee IV or something.
All right.
Honestly, I'm thinking like an iced coffee.
Well, that's what I have. I do have the Starbucks double shot. It's not exactly an iced coffee, but it's been chilling in my garage. It's relatively chill, it's lower than room temperature.
We had Vogel here, and this is what I'm talking about. See how he's dressed? He's dressed like an affluent lawyer. That again is kind of it's a well dressed lawyer like Donovan was in Act 1. So again, I like right off the bat, and again, he's like, now this is one of those fascinating little touches here. And again, I love all these little touches to interpret here. So you see his hand shaking. I love that we have all these little micro tells as if it's a poker game, and it really does. And this scene turns into a big poker game between the two of them. Again, they're the big negotiators in all this. Again, the main thing he's negotiating with this guy for Pryor. This whole thing is like a side quest because the guy he talked to earlier was for was for Abel and was for Powers. Like again, that was the main negotiation he had to do. He did Pryor second.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is definitely kind of like the big scene in the movie where Hanks is like kind of delivering the Jimmy Stewart, like, no man gets left behind. Every life is important. God damn it.
Yeah. And again, the little micro tells what I'm saying is I think Vogel might not be a bad guy because his hands were shaking with that glass. That's either a tell that he has something up his sleeve or that he's as nervous as he is. And again, it's like a little tell that
I mean, I guess when I say like he's definitely not like a traditional like mustache twirling like Thanos.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
he's like if there's one big obstacle getting in the way of the plot, it is him.
Yeah, again, he's the reason we're kind of like holding on bated breath. Like if the handoff's going to go down, if the trade's going to go down, because he throws in the big wrench into everything. So again,
I gotta say, Dragon, I think it's very Social Network-esque to essentially have a setup where the people that you think are representing you legally are the ones who are screwing you.
You're right. And there's like a little thing I just noticed in this moment here. Behind him, he has kind of a sketch of somebody on his wall. And I think that might be like a little, what we're going to do later on with Donovan.
Well, Dragon, there's sketches throughout the movie. It's like it's like a universal symbol. Like we see him sketching the judge in the trial. You know what I mean?
Well, sure, but I mean, this guy's office, like right behind him, we have a sketch.
No, I know. I'm just saying that's kind of a visual motif that just pops up throughout.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Because I was thinking maybe it was like another parallel between.
I mean, it could be. It could be.
I think you're on because then again, he would have had the goatee if it was him. So it doesn't really mean as much if it's not a portrait of another of himself. So anyway. Now he looks at, he gets a look at Pryor, which again, that's like kind of the kiss of death for like, yeah, he's not leaving this kid behind.
Yep. Yeah. So again, Dragon with the cold acting, like that's the level of the performance that just puts Tom Hanks over the edge.
Yeah, and I love how.
Dragon, I'm curious. Do you know? Did Tom Hanks actually have a cold, or is it acting?
Look, I don't know for certain, but I think it's acting.
I mean, it's damn impressive if it's
I think
just
he's acting. That good an actor. I think he's acting. I would give him all the credit that he's cold acting.
You legitimately just want to be like, get this guy into a hot bath for God's sakes.
That's what I'm saying. I just really believe that he's that good a performer. He's just selling that he has a cold here in all the right ways. Also, I love how progressively more cocky he gets towards Hoffman here, where he says, "I need a coat." And also, one of my favorite deliveries of Hanks is in the scene here, where he says, when they ask him what happened to your coat, he says, lost it, spy stuff. I love the way he says spy. It's like so earnest. Like
that's a parody of Dragon. It's a parody of kind of like people who saw the title Bridge of Spies and expected like a James Bond movie out of this movie. Yeah. Like, oh my God, Spielberg might never direct a James Bond movie, but this is going to be the next best thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're expecting like imitation games or something from this movie. Right. In reality, it's not going to be that tense, folks. It's going to be, it's going to be tense in a different way.
It's way more tense than any Bond movie I've ever seen, honestly.
Well, no, not Bond. I meant imitation games, but it's like tense in a different way.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I just love that little. It's like the everyman delivery of spy stuff. Just him accepting. Yeah, I'm kind of a spy. It's like pride without being overzealous. It's like yeah, he earned that. Okay, now this torture scene, like I love how simple but effective this torture is here. Where it's like I love the little detail too, where you see the little splash of water they step in, because that intimates that they keep waking him up with like the splashes of barrels of cold water into his face. That's why that water's pulling up on the side there, and the sleep deprivation torture. I guess more accurately, the interrogation method, but I mean essentially it's torture. Come on.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It really is, especially when they start ramping it up and there's a lot of people involved in it.
Honestly, I love the smartest choice in the editing of this whole thing, the construction of this sequence is that. And by the way, I love that we use the Soviets very sparingly, because honestly, this scene in the bridge is the most we ever see of the Soviets. Honestly, we really see him, and I guess the trial scene. Again, we use
Uh-huh.
them very. We don't really get to know any personally. We just see them kind of intimidating groups and like kind of as a unified thing, which again is essentially the gist of the Cold War, kind of a unified, again, kind of a unified
Well, I
Soviet
mean,
kind of
think
thing.
about it. That's probably how they saw us too.
Sure, sure. Again, it's just basically it's kind of I guess from the Soviet perspective, it's like, hey, you guys are like us, but you won't admit it, and you think you know again, everyone has like individual ownership, and it's the gist of it, I guess. But yeah, it's they're more similar than they like to admit, but again, like they're just yeah. Anyway, yeah, this one done, but like, again, it's kind of that yeah, unit where again, there's the smartest choice I was alluding to is that we show him woken up and brought into the room, and then he's brought back to his room, and like less than a second goes by, and then okay, he's awake again. It gives you a sense of what the torture was like, and just basically
Mhm.
doing this on a loop.
Now,
Yeah,
this is just like terrifying. The whole idea that it's like most of this stuff is probably stuff that you probably legitimately have no idea what they're even talking about. You know what I mean?
exactly. And I gotta tell you, it would not be a smart move. I wanted him to make smarmy responses to these guys, but
Oh, God.
it wouldn't have ended well. So he made a smart call. Just like sense. But technically, they can't kill him, so he would be beaten senseless, but not killed.
Uh-huh.
And again, of course, the whole cosmetic thing of like, hey, you beat up our guys. That's not, we need them alive and like, not in danger of, internal bleeding when we exchange them. Oh, this is great. Oh my God, this transition here, we go from like,
Yeah, I mean, this movie is like it could win an Oscar for best transitions. It needs to like have that category invented
I'm gonna
specifically
say
for it.
this, and don't get me wrong, we've had other movies where they have great transitions, but my mecca for like kind of the great transitions in film, at least one of my meccas for like one of the great examples is Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 has phenomenal transitions between scenes.
Mhm.
And this movie very much feels like if it doesn't surpass it, then it definitely measures up to the kind of the transitional kind of segues in Toy Story 2. They're really good.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, I'm talking about like we go from like the sketch of Al in the chicken suit to him actually being in the chicken suit. We have like
I
this
got to
really
admit, Dragon Toy Story 2 is one of the ones that I've watched the least out of the three of them in the trilogy, so it's worth a rewatch on me
it's
to
real
to kind of notice the transitions again because I don't necessarily know what you're talking about there.
real quick without going on a big tangent. Just gonna say this too. Toy Story 2. It's always I know it came out in November, but to me it always felt like a summer blockbuster for Toy Story. It always felt like to me. Anyway,
That's adorable.
yeah, it always felt it felt like I went to that movie like it was a summer blockbuster, despite it being in November. I had such a good time with it.
After the scares, go see the Bears, Dragon. We're releasing it on what, like a Wednesday or a Tuesday or something, just because it's the day after Halloween for a weird marketing gimmick.
All right.
Anyways,
There he is with his new coat.
oh yeah,
And this is nice too. I love
it's
that again.
all in
He's
the
making.
lead up to the sweater, Dragon. It's all a connected cinematic universe. It's
All
Tom
right.
Hanks and his multiple different lives.
Okay, let's not go crazy. But seriously, I love the civility here in the conversation. And again, we're seeing the evolution with his relationship with Abel without Abel even being there, where he's asking about his well being. And this sets up my single favorite idea in the movie. I love the ending of the entire arc with Donovan and Abel is my favorite
Oh,
payoff in the
sure,
entire.
sure.
I love that's the reason I watched the movie. Just that end scene. I could watch the end scene just justify watching the whole movie.
And also, do you want? I feel like it's something that we've never even really talked about throughout this whole conversation, but Abel just drops off the face of the map of this movie in a big way for a long stretch of it. And yet, through doing very little, he's built up this like memorable kind of presence to him. So when he comes back in, it's like we're picking up exactly where we left off with him.
You ever get like this weird sense that maybe Mark Rylance is just imagine this. What if Mark Rylance was really just not a good actor, but we kept imagining he was a really good actor because he does so little in the movies when you really think of it, but he does such a good job at it. Think about it. Like Dunkirk, he's not really, again, he's just a very kind of laid back, he's
Okay, well,
very.
to be fair, with Dunkirk, he says other lines besides just
No.
Dunkirk.
I'm just saying he has like that late.
He mourns for a dead son, Dragon.
No, he
He mourns
does.
for a dead son.
I'm saying he's great, but seriously, think about it from a logistical standpoint. He doesn't really, he's very casual in that movie.
No, I hear you.
Again, now I'm thinking like BFG, where that's a really intensive performance on Rylance as far as. And never mind that, but just imagine like how fun thought that would be if like Rylance was just.
Yeah, because the BFG is like the definitive Mark Rylance performance.
To be fair, he was really good in that movie.
He was.
That's what I'm saying. It was a really good. That's what I'm saying. It's a real lively performance from.
I'm glad you defend the BFG, Dragon, because a lot of people like to shit on that movie.
I really like the third act of BFG.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm getting at just the Rylance of it all here is like it's like imagine if he was just really lucky though. Imagine how delightful and be just lucked into being a good actor. But he is in all seriousness, he's an excellent actor. He's that good an actor. He seems like he's not acting. That's the best acting in the world, folks. Okay, here's what we're talking about. Here's where kind of Vogel again. This is the part I think people critics saying, yeah, I think this is the scene they're talking about. I don't know for certain. This is the scene where I hear people say they might have been a little unkind to.
Oh, I could see this. Yeah, like to me, it was exciting and it was really interesting.
That doesn't mean it's not something you can. It's not something to dislike. It's just something that it's a defined scene, regardless.
I mean, I guess that this is where I got the idea that Vogel, if anything, is a villain.
Well, again, I think he's kind of the opposite for Donovan. We have to show like he's an opposite, and in many senses, he's the big roadblock. He's the big wrinkle in the whole.
Okay, by the way, this scene is some of the most stunning and cinematic moments in the movie for me.
Really?
Well, right here.
Ah. Oh yeah,
like there's one moment in particular. I think it's coming up.
Well, for the folks that don't, make sure you're just going to clarify a little bit.
Well, the moment is when Hanks is like witnessing the person being gunned down for trying to climb the wall.
Well, that's later on, T. And he's been on the train for that. It's not.
Oh, that's later on. Okay, I'm sorry.
Anyways, I know you're talking about that. I have a story behind that, but
okay.
Anyway, so this, and again, this is what I'm talking about. I might be just connecting some dots here, but I'd like to think thematically this might be connected. The story he was telling earlier on about that there was a car accident we was talking about in the very beginning. And now we're seeing like. Again, like the insurance salesman was defending a guy who he ran into 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically doing the insurance on that. Now he himself is in a car driving at very high speed, so it's really tense and kind of a subtle callback to the opening.
Sure.
And this is basically Vogel saying, you don't understand who you're dealing with, and just showing that the dangers of being, because now he's firmly in the. I'm trying to forget, he's in East, right? Yeah, he's in East right now. Not good.
But you know what, Dragon? Vogel doesn't know who he's dealing with because Tom Hanks is super lawyer and he's only going to spend one night in this jail cell. Damn it.
True. Again, not much to hold him on aside from just being. But then again, it shows you who has all the power here, which is
passport problem. What BS is that?
The idea here is like he's telling them to put him in the holding cell right now. He's saying, "Hey, disregard his passport." Essentially. Again, he has all the paperwork he needs, but he says, "No, you don't have the paper." Basically, expressing the message. And if I'm correct here, I believe he's in the Soviet side right now, or he's either in the blockade right about to the Soviet side, or he's like directly in he's exploring the lower end, and he's basically saying. And by the way, just to express it, again, Vogel's ticked off that he's kind of doubled in, which in reality he's not. Again, because they both get the same guy in the end. Again, they're both basically Vogel's. He's really expressing the semantics of no, they're occupying us right now.
Here's the thing, though, Dragon. Here's the thing. It does lead to a really interesting kind of moral dilemma throughout the movie, which is it would be cleaner to just do the one trade-off, the one guy for one guy.
True.
But at the same time, of course, what Hanks represents the the humanitarian side of things who wants to save as many people as he can.
Sure, and of course, you know me too. I love a story about people saving other people. It's
of course,
what I live for. So again, that's another reason I adore this movie. And again, honestly, even the text of this movie got me really excited with like one little factoid at the very end. We have the famous text at the end of a biopic. There's a really great little text lines like, "Oh my God, that's astounding." We'll get there. There's where here we go. See, we poor Donovan. He was. Then again, I love that he has that little barb to Hoffman later on saying, "Well, it's better in my room, my dingy little apartment."
I can kind of believe that too.
Again, it's like a little wooden bed. Okay, here's the scene you're talking about. Is your favorite?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yes, this is the most Spielbergian moment in this movie, I think.
It is, and now here's the thing: the payoff later when we call this back, it was Tom Hanks's idea for the callback later on. So again, he was inspired by this scene. We'll get to that payoff later on, but this is the main inaccuracy of the movie. And again, it's not that it didn't happen. It's just that Donovan wasn't there to witness this. Is that this sort of stuff did happen? Like people try to climb the wall, and it's an easy wall to climb. The problem
Dragon,
is
that's what I like to call a movie.
I know. I'm just I'm just saying like that's the worst thing. That's the worst thing people have to say about the movie is that for any
you see, kids, that's how movies work. You want to show things that are visually compelling.
I'm just saying that's like the only inaccurate. Honestly, the movie's really on mic, except for like that year inaccuracy with this. Is that again? These events did happen. It's just they made them like happen on the weekend that he went there, and they basically they economized how long he was there, and the economized how long he was there, and basically did it's like when the wall was just put. Basically, as we see the wall put up, and again, a lot of these issues are coming from the fact that we don't have years on the screen. That's kind of. But again, they didn't want to make a lot of confusion, get all the historical accuracies on their butts right from the get-go. Like, that didn't happen that year. They were trying to,
Okay, so here comes the big American breakfast. And, Dragon, I was going to say earlier, but this was one of the things I kind of lost my train of thoughts on. There's a runner where at least 2 or 3 times, like definitely twice, if not 3 times, Hanks leaves Hoffman at a table right after delivering him like a fat slice of truth.
Yeah, you're right. Oh my, yeah, you're right. What I love here is that I kind of wonder if how far this is planned because he is really. You gotta imagine he's going to be really hungry. By the same token, he orders a lot of food, and he knows that he knows that Hoffman's staying at the Hilton. He's living lap of luxury. So a part of me really thinks that he ordered all this food just to spite Hoffman. God, I really do because again, it's kind of like I imagine he's going to be really hungry after spending like a night in there. And again, I don't imagine food's easy to come by where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not saying he's starving, but again, I don't know again, I don't know he's having such a hard time in Berlin. I don't know how his food situation's going, but regardless. It just seems to me like a whole hey, I'm not even going to eat because I'm going to do my job. I'm going to try to save somebody here while you're just like, hey, let's save the one guy.
But like I said, Dragon, it's not that like
yeah, no one's a bad guy here. He's certainly
I do get Hoffman's point. I really do. I'm like, look, if we want to make this as clean as possible, if we want to guarantee that we save the guy that we set out to save in the first place, this is the way we do it. If we go your route, things could get messy. Things could get complicated.
It's kind of like, what if we saved more than one Ryan in Saving Private Ryan? It's kind
God.
Remember, we do have that other Ryan guy. Remember, it's like,
oh man.
What if we save both? No. In all seriousness, though, you're right. Though that's the issue of the movie. Where again, he's not in the wrong here for just wanting to just fulfill the mission here. But he's saying, if we can save another person, why wouldn't we? And again, he's sure that we can pull this off. And again, he's a lawyer. He knows how to negotiate, and again, especially negotiate terms and settlements and such. So he knows.
Enjoy your big American breakfast.
Yeah. And again, it's a wonderful backhanded compliment here where he's like, hey, there you go, breakfast. Most likely on him, by the way. Just here you go. Breakfast on me. Enjoy it. But yeah, it's just Hoffman just has that ego about him, but he's not a bad guy.
Like I said, Dragon, he's like vaguely Fabian-esque.
This shot makes me think that he's hungry, by the way, because again, they're taking away all the food, it looks like.
God.
It really makes me think that he sacrificed his meal to kind of prove a point to him. Yeah, this is like, again, this guy gets a little scary himself here, where he basically says that he wants them both. And again, just to express the whole point there is that the Soviets are getting the Soviets and the Germans, they're really kind of divisible here, where again, the Germans feel they're being occupied by the Russians. Therefore, it's like two different things and not just like getting the same prisoner. So they really just want to say, we get our guy, and we don't want to be like,
Okay,
second
really
choice.
quick. I
We don't
love
want
how
sloppy
scary that
seconds.
no is.
Yeah, that's what exactly. No.
So this is when they're trying to do the old switcheroo, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, no, you get the other guy. You don't get powers. You get Prior.
He's basically this is his guy to go for pride. Basically, this guy's laying down the law saying you can have only one.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, he's saying, "Hey, I'm willing to give you the guy that you want. You want the kid. You want the future." And I love them using that word choice, by the way, the future, because in this scene and the following scene, we have him surrounded by young men, like the young interns and everything. Which again, it's like it's on his mind, very visual. Like this guy right here, this kid in the room that he forges a little rapport with in the following scene. That's what
Uh-huh.
he's saying. He's like, "Hey, I get what you're going for here. You want to save the kid. I applaud that. Do that, but again, you can't have both." And of course, at the end of the day, he has to pick powers over the kid, and he knows that. But he knows that he can manage both. And again, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not crazy with like all these young guys around him in that wide shot.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
And again, he's so nice. Again, he treats this kid like he treats Doug, and I like that. I like how the kid's smart. By the way, he's a little intimidated by this, but he's smart and he's amenable to what he's saying. And again, I think the kid respects him.
Uh-huh.
Young man. And that word choice again is what definitely makes me think there's a theme going on with all this. All right, come here.
What do you think, Dragon? Should I go for coffee number 4?
Well, I mean, again, we're gonna hit the third act climax. I mean, if you're gonna go, I guess you should go. If you need it, you should go now.
Okay. On Dragon's recommendation, coffee number 4. It's your fault, Dragon.
Oh, I thought you had to get up for it. I didn't know you had it at the ready. I didn't know how many
No,
you got.
I got it.
Well, in that case, yeah, down it like there's no tomorrow.
Okay. Well, in that case, my friend, that's a ringing endorsement for coffee number 4, and I'm gonna be wired until like 4 o'clock this morning. Awesome. All
so
right.
am I every night. Come on.
God. I do feel considerably more peppy than when I did not have the coffee in my system, though, Dragon. It is working. Anyways, enough with the coffee talk.
So again, it's just kind of nice that he's on a mission to save youth, kind of save the future. So I don't think he was far off with that word choice of saving the future. And again, it's not just like I don't want to just make this a pointless kind of parallel there, where he's just trying to. In a way, he's not like trying to save his son directly. He's just trying to secure the future that his own son was, kind of fearful that he wouldn't be able to experience. It's kind of hope in somewhat hopeless times and like kind of downtrodden times where again we're celebrating things are going to go south. It's like a very pessimistic. We're living in pessimistic times, and we have like the only guy pursuing an optimistic vision. We're like, no, we can save more than one people. We don't have to accept the bare minimum. We can reach for the stars. We can say things might turn out well.
Uh-huh.
We can make the best of a bad situation. That's kind of what he's doing here. And again, what Hanks is doing so beautifully in the scene, he communicates that he's so tired and he's sick, literally sick and tired. And he just wants to go home. He's laying down the law, and it's a really great gambit that he has laid out here. It's a smart gambit where he's basically facilitating through someone else other than himself. Like, hey, they're giving me the runaround. They're making me wait outside. Fine. I won't wait around, but I'm gonna lay down the law. I'm gonna take a gutsy move that my bosses aren't gonna like here. But hey, if I it's like, hey, if I have to go home, we're going home empty-handed. That's the way it's gonna go. No goodwill for you, no guy for me. And again, the best move that he makes here, from the negotiator's point of view, but I think is so freaking brilliant, is where he says, "Well, if I tell Mr. Abel that he's not going home, we'll see how his demeanor changes."
Oh yeah.
Very smart call.
And then Hoffman is just like beside himself. I love this.
I love that we get away with we actually get away with 2 F-bombs.
I kind of love the kind of like the buddy cop dynamic that Hoffman and Hanks kind of develop throughout the movie in a way.
My 2 favorite bits in the scene, though, I love that he's asking
like,
for
look at
change.
Hoffman. He's just kind of like just jumping up and down. He's so furious.
I'm sorry, I just saw it as you were pointing out.
Yeah.
He jumped up and down. I knew that he was there, but he literally jumped. It was my 2 favorite things that Hanks does. I love in that scene just very directly. Do you have change? As he's getting all antsy and riley. Do you have change? And I love this change right here where he says, We're basically, yeah. Then we're screwed. Then we're again. We get away with two f bombs. By the way, that only Tom Hanks could facilitate. Yeah, it's Tom Hanks giving the other f bomb. It's we did when we didn't catch me if you can. We can get away with it here. But right here, I love the whole. You already have, but the whole "Hi, honey," I just love that.
It's like that is like robotic Hanks. That is like Hanks on autopilot in a good way. You know what I mean? It's like
Exactly.
just the most pleasant Americano, like Mr. Rogers, like "Hi, honey."
Now, this isn't a gripe against the scene, but I do wonder. I wonder if he's placing a secret call during this scene
Ooh, bunch of secrets,
because
dragon.
he puts an extra coin in the machine, and he looks like he's just waiting for him to kind of go off. But then again, here's the thing: he's waiting by the phone. But then again, they're already waiting for a call. Period. It's just that you would imagine when he closes the door, he would have after Hoffman walks away, he would he would be starting another conversation. So again, it's the jury's out on that. But I don't know.
I like that. I like that. I never thought of that before.
The thing is, I can't think of who he calls though.
My guess is he's kind of starting to get the cold now, kind of taking out the tissue himself.
In a way, he's kind of progressively getting more and more on his side. And again, the poster, when he kind of brings the bummer down on this scene, he kind of takes the air out of the room. He's like, "Yeah, let's celebrate." He's excited. Yeah, you were right. Like the one time he's like buddying up to.
Exactly. Like he's looking at Hanks like, "God damn it."
He was right.
Like, yes, all right.
He was right. So we're definitely setting up kind of the big climax of the third act here. So I guess Act 3 is like when the negotiations really start to break down. I guess not like his entry is like in Act 2, but like when negotiations really start for both men, that's when Act 3 gets started. I guess.
Sure.
At the very least, when Vogel gets introduced, I think that's Act 3. I think Vogel's probably Act 3, I guess.
Well, Act 3 is basically, for all intents and purposes, the titular bridge of Spies itself.
Honestly, I just want to make Act 3 the big negotiation, but it's not long enough, so I guess,
Like, basically, it's everything from when we see the Glynnick Bridge.
Yeah, exactly. So this was I believe, according to the bonus features, this is the last day of the shoot.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
This is Tom Hanks's last day. All this bridge stuff is definitely Tom Hanks's last day, and I think the last day of filming in Berlin, at least.
I like the logic behind that because it gives definitely a sense of finality between Rylance and Hanks.
Yeah, and like there's definitely a tiredness and everything. Again,
sure.
They're rushing to the finish here.
Yeah,
this bridge again, it's so wonderfully, again, recreating the little checkpoints and the trimmings and everything, and basically those checkpoints are recreated flawlessly from what I'm finding. And again, honestly, in this whole act here, especially when we get to the Abel and Donovan stuff, that's when the Thomas Newman score is really powerful there. I mean, Thomas Newman again, his music comes into the emotional parts very well. Again, the biggest example I give is the egg theme from Finding Nemo.
I feel like Newman is more understated than John Williams is, but I feel like he makes that understated quality his own.
Like the best examples would be like in Cinderella Man. That's like another good example of how
is Thomas Newman the one who did Forrest Gump?
I really think so, but I'm not sure. There's a chance it might not be, but it sounded like Newman.
Because I'm just saying, like Forrest Gump, there are things I don't like about Forrest Gump, I'll admit, but the score is one of those things where it's like I said, it has that same sort of like understated beauty to it in a way.
I like how the friends were reunited just then, with Abel and.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over that.
It's nice, like Jim. Of course, and that's when the music really kicked in during that scene too, like when that the little reunion happened. So again, and again that Newman score when we get to it accentuates my favorite part of the entire film. Right there, it's the big accentuation when we get to it. That's what his music does. Like Cinderella Man, there are moments where we just see it's like Thomas Newman had like this perfect hardship music for Cinderella Man, which is set during the Great Depression.
Sure.
And that's the thing. Andrew Stan is not wrong. Thomas Newman's score is it's a component almost as parable to a character at times.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the snipers on both ends are again, it's a good kind of expression of what the Cold War was. Both sides kind of guns towards each other,
right, and it's good symbolism to like this is going to sound simple, Dragon, but it's kind of like we're not so different, you and I.
Yeah.
I hate
I,
to use that terminology, but
yeah, this is simple too. I just love this though that he's standing by Abel, and like I think it's at this bit right here where Hoffman tells me, "Okay, you can go now. I'll facilitate the transfers." No, I'm not going anywhere.
I can wait.
Well, no, that's a little later. We're getting there.
Okay,
That's even
okay, sorry.
that's a bigger. That's an even more awesome bit. I'm just standing over here, like he's standing by him.
Uh-huh. And again, Rylance, man, like he might have less than 100 words of dialogue overall, Dragon,
He
but
says
my
not.
God, he uses it.
Like Hanks just says not likely. He says you can stay here, not likely. And I love again the cinematography is breathtakingly beautiful in this scene right here, where it's just the silhouettes of these two men walking, walking across this
Oh yeah, the way
bridge.
they shoot this bridge is just absolutely impeccable, as you can see here, folks. This is our root image, is the bridge scene.
I don't know. This is an even more powerful route image. Of course, where we're going to be going eventually after after this exchange is all done, is the lone man on the bridge with with these lights and
Oh
snowfall.
yeah, I hear you for sure.
Yeah, it's okay. This cements my favorite idea in the movie here because where they seed the idea. It's basically from this point forward is where they're doing my favorite scene here, where I love the setup that Rylance gives him a clue as to what he expects his fate to be. Where he says, if they embrace me, I'll probably be in, things will probably be going well. If they usher me into the back seat, when I go across, when I'm exchanged, if they embrace me, might be in good shape. If I go in the back seat, they'll probably shoot me.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. And again, I love that he's asking like, "What can I look for? How am I going to know you're okay?" And again, it's what he tells him. Again, this is like the perfect kind of arc for like a lawyer who like went from just defending a client to befriending a client. It's a
Oh yeah,
beautiful
oh yeah.
little story. Very
Again,
intimidating.
I feel like it's kind of like the reverse Silence of the Lambs, where they're only really together in a couple scenes, but those couple scenes just like we make every moment between them count and matter, and that's what good acting and compelling film is, Dragon.
Yeah, it's like in Silence of the Lambs. There's this one very small pivotal moment in that movie where, again, while they don't have a lot of time together, when Hannibal Lecter touches her finger, when she gives him the file, like they exchange the file, like she just touches her finger. That's huge. It's a huge amount of intimacy between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like petting the tiger in a way.
Oh yeah.
It's the little red dragon joke. I love that they gave him a little Russian hat, by the way. It was kind of
God.
just kind of noticed that. Yeah, they gave him a little Russian hat. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like the Russians or the Soviets are used very sparingly, and then they're just unified and just kind of falling into line in groups here.
Sure.
So again this is the moment you were alluding to, Tiki. Again, it's a very palatable moment, very again gripping moment of the whole thing. This is where the whole dynamic between and Donovan and Abel comes into fray here. Where basically it's so beautiful to me. It's a beautiful little idea here that this spy, again, a guy who's even trained to kind of follow the mission, not really trusting. Spies don't trust anybody traditionally. That's what we're bred to know in like James Bond, God knows how many other espionage things. This spy trusted this humble lawyer who, again, just always had his best interests at heart, enough to
Mm-hmm.
risk himself to help his new friend here, help his new friend, the standing man. And that's what he kind of says to him after he says, basically, he's asking him, like, so basically, if I stand here, it'll be helping you. Just yeah, it'll be helping me specifically. And he says, I can wait. It's like, oh my god, he's saying standing man, and saying I can wait. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, really great stuff.
It was enough to bring a tear to your eyes. Really that nice. It's just yeah. That's
And of course,
honestly,
Powell is just getting more and more desperate.
I'm gonna make a very
Or
broad,
Hoffman,
very.
I'm sorry, Hoffman.
Sure. I'm gonna make a very I might tell you I'm overreaching, but I don't know, I'm in a good mood with this movie. It might just be catching me at the right moment here. It feels kind of like a great Hollywood friendship in the great sense of the words, like like a whole. I think it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship, kind of like a Rick from Casablanca, kind of like
I could see that, Dragon. I could definitely see that.
it might be like a shooting for the moon, but I don't know. I really bought into this friendship. I like it. With the silhouettes and everything, maybe that's it. I don't know.
The silhouettes and the spotlights in the scene, it is all very Spielbergian, of course.
Yeah. again, I like that his faith, again, James's faith is rewarded in a few very key ways where, again, his waiting paid off. And again, I do wonder, the assumption is that the Russians and the Germans here, they were holding off as kind of like a show of, it was like a mind game of like, we held off just to see who was going to blink first, so we can hopefully kind of like still keep our guy, maybe not honor our commitment. But in the end, they did honor their commitment. Like it shot like they just showed up a little late. I think they intended on fulfilling their commitment, but you never know. I love this too here. I like how Vogel gets shunned here. I think this is Vogel, right? I'm just saying because he's
Yes,
what
yes.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
He's dressed exactly like Vogel. I don't know what it was, just the lighting in this one scene, like when he shows up. But yeah, I love he gets snubbed on the handshake though. And that's what we say about Vogel. Again, I love we're not too malicious. We're not saying he's like a big villain, just kind of prickish in one scene. That's really what we
Yeah,
do with
for sure,
Vogel.
for sure.
And that's our punishment. That's his comeuppance. He doesn't get a handshake. It's like, hey.
Ooh, take that, Vogel, you big bad meanie.
Okay, now this is beautiful here, where he tells him, I have a gift for you, James. It's a painting. I didn't think to get you a
Dragon, I
gift.
gotta say, I'm not dissing on it by any stretch. It is a really nice moment. I don't think it hits me as hard as it hits you, just because I kind of could see it coming. Like the whole movie, like I said, we're building up these sketches and paintings and self portraits that this guy's been doing. So I don't know. Like it's nice. It's just not an oh my god, I never saw that
Yeah, but
coming.
he secured him the paints and everything. He got him those, the ability to make the paintings
No,
and
I understand all that. I get it. I get it.
yeah. And again, the moment
Of
we're all
course,
okay.
the moment is just like it's just all comes down to just like one man crossing paths with another man. That's what the whole
Again,
movie builds to.
you're right. It's so mundane, but again, look at how beautifully again Kaminsky. Oh my God, Kaminsky. I don't know if this movie got cinematography for the Oscar for cinematography, but it definitely deserved it. Might have had stiff competition. I can't remember what was up for it.
I actually have the awards page list. I could look it up if you
But while
want.
you're doing it, let me talk about my favorite. This is my favorite moment right here. This is what I'm talking about. All of that was kind of building to this. Like, if I had like one solitary moment, so this is what I'm talking about. The big payoff to my favorite idea of the movie here, where he doesn't get embraced. And as far as James knows here, based on what his friend said, his friend's a goner.
Hmm.
That's why always how I read this scene. Now we know counter again because of the text at the end. We know this is not the case. But as far as James knows, and again, for all I don't know if he ever found out when back then. But as far as he knows, like I just love we linger on Hanks here. It's just kind of it's sad yet noble knowing that he was willing to accept his fate for everything that happened to him. And again, like he's going. It's the last time I'm going to see that nice guy defend and befriended.
Okay, so for best cinematography at the Oscars this year, we had The Revenant, Mad Max Fury Road, Sicario, and then The Hateful Eight, which absolutely I think Bridge of Spies should have like replaced. And then Carol, which I've still never seen Carol, so I have no room to judge in that regard. But hate like this movie over Hateful Eight, seriously.
Wait, did hate? So which one? Do you know which one got it?
No, I'm sorry. I mean, like Hateful Eight. Like I'm saying, seriously, Hateful Eight. Like nominated over this movie.
Right.
Like this movie wasn't even nominated.
Look at Hoffman just snubbing this guy. I didn't want you.
God.
He's just so ticked off.
Dragon, if one nitpick I do have about this movie, it's a minor one, but it does kind of have the Lord of the Rings syndrome of there's a lot of different endings to it.
I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
I mean, you almost kind of feel like it could have just ended with the two men crossing paths and have that be it because it's like kind of the grand point of the
I'll agree.
movie.
You're right. It could have ended there, but we do have a really sweet ending. We have a lot of good endings, so that's where it comes down to.
And look, I say that as someone who defends the Lord of the Rings ending, so it's I'm sure it's fine.
So, he painted him, which is really it's a good painting too, by the way.
Mhm.
But oh yeah, it was. Sorry, I misread that one scene though. But seriously, with Francis Gary Powers, though, I initially mistook him for the other guy for a moment there. But no, seriously, in real life, Gary Powers, as Hanks kind of reassured him in the scene, like, hey, don't listen to what anyone else says. You know what happened. Where basically the reason he was snubbing him is basically that the American people, and this happened in real life, where he was a kind of a spy who kind of was dishonored in ways because he was supposed to die instead of like being being captured, and it was kind of for many years they dragged his name through the mud and kind of basically a lot of rumors, untrue rumors being spread and stuff. So it took a long while before he was kind of redeemed, but
Uh-huh.
that's what they're kind of like setting up with him. That this guy again, like Donovan gives him like a little pep talk, like, "Hey, don't listen to them." Again, Donovan's relaying his own experience that people are going to look at you funny and they're going to do that, but don't let that get to you.
Sure, sure.
Nice.
I love this bit with the marmalade.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, honey, I was busy.
I don't think you still told me which one won for cinematography.
Oh, which one won for cinematography? I'm sorry. Uh, the Revenant won for cinematography.
I tell you, I think I was rooting for Bridge of Spies to win, even though I had a
Because it's
feeling
all boys, yeah. It's Leo's, yeah.
the Revenant might win, but I wanted Bridge of Spies to win.
Well, Dragon, like I said, Bridge of Spies wasn't even nominated for cinematography.
Oh yeah, we think we did
It
in the
was The
snub.
Revenant, Carol, Hateful Eight, Mad Max Fury Road, and
Oh
Sicario.
my god, you're right. I'm thinking of the snub when we did this thing when we talk about the snubs. That's where I'm okay.
Yeah, and I'm saying out of those, I think the Hateful Eight, like that whole movie takes place in a goddamn cabin, Dragon. Like, just swap that movie out.
Okay, I'm pretty sure they're using the actual footage on the TV here. Pretty sure. And this is nice. This is where again we reward. Here's the thing. Like I don't. Again, this might be another like liberty they took with like the timeline. I don't know how fast this came out in the TVs or
Uh,
they're announcing this, but regardless, it doesn't matter because they communicate the idea with him sleeping here is that Donovan got what he wanted. He didn't need the thanks. He didn't need the praise. He had to keep this all hush hush, and he just wanted to go to bed. In the end, he just wanted sleep and rest, and that's really his reward. He got his due, and he didn't need to know that he got his due. He didn't need it
uh,
out there. He didn't need to know it. So it was really nice. And this is going to lead to the great subway payoff, where he's going to be on the subway yet again. People are going to like now respect him where they before they shunned him for really silly reasons. And with the subway, so I don't miss it. So as it will unfold, you're going to see that Tom Hanks at the very end, the end of the movie, essentially, is that he's looking out of the window, and when they were filming that scene, it's just like the ending of the ending of that scene was just okay, just looking out the window. You're probably going to end like him looking out the window, affected. And then Hanks suggested to Steven Spielberg, "Hey, what if I'm looking at kids like crossing what essentially would be tantamount to the Berlin Wall. It's like climbing a fence or something." So Tom Hanks had that idea, and that's what they shot.
nice,
The
nice.
final image of the movie, which is again, that's the thing. As much as you're right, it could have ended there and would have been equally as effective. I mean, this though, it adds like this great bit of gratitude but uneasiness at the very end, where he basically sees like, yeah, this is what I preserved, so I don't have to fear this. But by the same token, you could read it that way, or you could read it that, and that is, I've seen some stuff while I was over there. I saw something kind of, the scary realities of the world. Like the Berlin Wall, again, it's not going to go down for like a number of years.
Uh-huh.
That Berlin Wall, that's still going to be happening. And he's just saying, okay, this is how things are here,
Dragon,
but
it's
there.
weird to say this, but I feel like this movie, like, it doesn't necessarily sequel bait, but it is very much like there's more stories to tell with this guy.
I'd be down for it.
Oh, I'd be too.
You got Tom Hanks, I'm down for it.
I
I'm
mean,
just
to
kind of
me, the symbolism of him looking out the window is that he's home and that he's happy to be home, but I don't know.
sure. I mean, you're right, and that's essentially that's the main way to read. But again, this climbing the fence, but this is Hanks's
Right,
idea.
the climbing the fence, sure,
I just
sure.
love how uneasy they can see it in his face there.
Uh-huh.
It's like you don't know exactly how I was taking it, but again, he looks a little haunted when he looks at that fence. I think that was such a brilliant choice. Or again, it's like yes, things worked out, but it's not a fixed solution though.
Sure, sure. Dragon, this is almost kind of like a more understated version of his performance in Captain Phillips. And Captain Phillips's performance was a bottle rocket, Dragon. It
He
was
was oh my god, he's so good in Cabin
like
Phillips
the whole movie, he was like composed the whole time
until the very end where
until the very end. And then it's just
yeah.
like, oh my God.
So this is okay. So you're coming up here is again the true life fact that essentially got the movie made. By the way, the thing with Kennedy here. That's what again our writer kind of happened upon this, and then he kind of backtracked and he found out the story for the movie. And this is the thing that amazes me here. He was tasked to save 1,113 prisoners, and in the end, he saved 9,703 men, women, and children. My God, that's astounding and fantastic. And I love how following that we have this really heroic Thomas Newman music because that's what it is. It's a heroic movie in many respects. It's delightful.
All right.
It's such a great honor to be asked by Kennedy to kind of to facilitate, to negotiate with Castro. He suggests that he negotiate with Castro, like the big guy, the big head honcho himself. After the Bay of Pigs, after this huge, messy debacle, it's like, hey, I want you to talk to that guy because I trust you.
It's kind of like the Clay Tony thing with 13 Reasons Why. It's like, bro, you need to sit down, you need to eat some In-N-Out, and we need to talk through this shit.
Okay. All right. So, final thoughts.
Final thoughts, Dragon. Yeah, this is a very, very good one. Like I said, it's like obviously it's not like in the top 5 is pretty definitive. You know, like you got your Jaws, you got your E.T., you got your Jurassic Park. You know what I mean? But this is firmly in the top 10 for me. Maybe in the bottom of the top 10, but it is a very, very solid entry in Spielberg's canon. I love that it's a movie that started the Mark Rylance Renaissance, and yet it's such an understated movie for Rylance, and yet you can see exactly why he won the Oscar for it.
The Rylance.
The Rylance, yes. You know, just overall, just in general, I feel like the movie does a terrific job of basically, like we said, being the My Dinner with Andre of spy thrillers, where it is thrilling in every sense of the word. It is a spy movie in every sense of the word, but it's literally all conversation. And so it's just like, you know, I feel like it's a good kind of middle ground for Spielberg where it's a very entertaining movie. It's a very propulsive movie. The pace never lets up, but at the same time, obviously, it kind of scratches Spielberg's itch for doing these historical epics, which I feel like Spielberg is still kind of like in the middle of. So at the end of the day, Dragon, this is definitely a worthwhile investment. Sandy and Jacob couldn't join us because they haven't seen this movie, and I urge them that they need to check this out because they're both big fans of Spielberg, and this is definitely a gem in Spielberg's filmography.
Right. Okay, for me, Spielberg, he makes a mean biopic. He really does, and I think this is testament to that. Again, Catch Me If You Can. This again, testament to the man makes a fantastic biopic, and of course, one of the big choices, one of the big picks we're going to be talking about later on Spielberg Month. That's going to be kind of the coup d'état of Spielberg biopics. And I'm very excited to get to that. So this, he gets great work at it. He's a director who gets great work out of Tom Hanks, as per usual. It's really impossible to get a bad performance out of Tom Hanks, but I think Spielberg is one of those directors who gets like the absolute best. Like I think Zemeckis and especially Spielberg, they get kind of the best from Tom Hanks. It's it's a heroic film in the core sense of the word. It's not a super heroic film. It's not it's not a war movie, but it's a film about the heroic themes. Again, it boils down to just that what a hero is at their core, someone who saves other people, goes out of their way, puts themselves at risk, who cares about people. Again, morally, I think Hanks was given a really rich character to play. And again, some people will say a lot of the time it's hard to play a white hat, hard to play the good guy a lot of the time. You don't have like a lot of interesting layers unless you play a complex character. And again, argument can be made for that. I don't agree personally. I think if you can kind of live in the world of this character, if you can explore this character, if you can get to know, like, if you can root for a white hat, if you can understand, like, why can't we live in the world with more white hats? And I think that's the performance that kind of Hanks gave us, and that's the film that's about a character like that. Again, as I said before, Steve Rogers would love this movie.
Like I said, Dragon, I feel like The Post is an example of like it's very much that kind of like white hat Spielberg kind of like with an agenda, but it just doesn't have the same kind of propulsive energy that this movie does. It doesn't have a hook to it like this movie does.
I would say this movie is exactly as long as it needs to be,
Yeah, just over 2 hours. It's not like a 3-hour like major time suck, but it's not like an hour and a half like light and breezy affair either.
Exactly. You know, you're sitting down to be told a story that's worth telling. And again,
Mhm.
what my Steve Rogers comparison again, I keep using the Steve Rogers comparison, not just for the fact that I do love that character, but for the fact that Steve Rogers' character represents what America should be, and that's kind of what the vibe of this movie is. It's showing you kind of what through a character what America should be, what the ideal is. It's communicating that ideal. And I think that's kind of your best form of a film that is has patriotic themes in it. Which again, this film again is it's patriotism in really complex times. But we have that carried through that one character. Examines ideals in the time of paranoia and one-upsmanship. Like it's America versus the Soviets. There's Sputnik, there's the space race. You know,
Right, right.
it's very paranoid times because when this movie starts, 57, that's like right after Sputnik, I think. I think it's like
I'm Sputnik.
anyway. Like look, speaking of that, look, my only gripe is again we go a little Hollywood with the CG in that one spot. Woe is
Uh-huh.
me, that's my one gripe. Because aside from that, it's my
How
God, it's
dare they do a Hollywood action sequence in a major mainstream big budget movie, Dragon?
what are you gonna tell me next?
Shame on them.
What are you gonna tell me next? They got Spielberg to direct.
All right, all right.
Seriously, my God, it's a film to be proud of, and a film I can't say enough nice things about. So that's about it, folks. No mid to post credit scene like the post on this one, folks. So we're gonna be wrapping up here.
Wait, was there a post-credit scene on the post?
I thought you told me there was.
No, what I said about the post was the fact that it was kind of like a sequel bait kind of ending.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Never mind. Forget what I just said, then, folks.
Anyways, Dragon, should we tease them with the next entry in Spielberg month?
You want to be ambiguous about it?
No, I think we should just tell them.
Okay, we'll just tell them then.
Yeah. Okay, folks, next one is a childhood favorite by a very specific demographic. That is kids that grew up in the 90s. We're going to go back to Robin Williams. We're going to have some fun with Dustin Hoffman and his Bring Me Peter Pan best. And we're going to take a trip back to Neverland with Hook.
Yeah.
This is going to be a wild ride, Dragon. Because Hook is like one of those movies. Hook is one of those movies that's fueled almost entirely by nostalgia.
And I'll tease this. It's a film that Spielberg's not necessarily thrilled about.
Exactly. So I feel like Hook is kind of like our wild card choice for this season.
Really does, and Wild definitely emphasized Wild. So we'll
All right. Well, folks, thanks for joining us, and stay tuned again for more Spielberg Month. Enjoy your big American breakfast.